Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 173, and I've got the gentlemen Nate Hale and Dustin Bovey at the table this week. We've got a little bit of a studio audience, along with Tony the dog, who is a little bit restless tonight, so hopefully he'll chill out. We'll give him a little bit of whiskey that we're having tonight, maybe. A
little bit.
We're having some JTS Brown as the featured whiskey tonight from Heaven Hill. We'll get into that here in just a second, and there we go. We're also smoking the Rocky Patel Edge Sumatra. Looking forward to that. I want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, for sponsoring us with the Edge Sumatra from Rocky Patel. It's in Columbus, Ohio. The Edge Sumatra will be 15% off now until the end of, until the next podcast on Wednesday next week. So check that out. If you're out of the area, we can definitely ship you some. We typically do at least 5 in the shipping arena. Also, Altadis USA, we've got the Romeo y Julieta Reserve and the Rothschild and Tubo. So that's one of my favorites from Romeo Julieta, and that's going to be our second cigar. So thank you, Altadis USA and Josh Bentley, for all the support. Also, BS Cigar Company got a silver on the table. Got the golds in stock as well as the silver. We're going to have more of the gold available here soon. So check those out as well, bscigarcompany@gmail.com or on social media. Also, we want to thank all you guys, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. Pretty easy. We had a new $25 tier member that actually joined this last week from Philly, Corey, who came in town with Bobby Hirschman. So
nice. Heck yeah.
Hopefully we can see him on some of the conversations here going forward. He said he was going to check out the podcast, but before that, I think he just supported us because we had a great time with him in town. So, yeah. Thank you guys very much. Check that out. We're going to have another raffle tonight for 2 whiskey glasses for our Patreon members. So patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. Love to have you guys be a part of it. Dustin, how you been? You haven't been on the show for a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while. Doing all right. Had this week off for a vacation week from work. Well, my actual job, the week has been filled with work around the house and a lot of projects that we've been trying to plan for and get everything figured out, sorted out, and aligned. And it just so happens that everything kind of aligned for this week. So we got our pool put in a couple weeks ago. This week we had a concrete patio laid down next to our deck that I rebuilt back in October.
I want your job.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's a pool, a patio. Whatever.
Well, you've heard him talk about all the hours and days that he works.
I get it.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, okay. I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had 2 days off all of May in my other job.
Right.
So
you're going to really enjoy that pool and patio, aren't you?
Doing everything that I can to enjoy it. Unfortunately, we can't do anything on the patio for at least a week. So right now it's just eye candy taunting me until we can get on it, and then I go back to work.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, and then today Doug post holes for a little deck landing next to the pool. So that way, if the little one gets tired from swimming, she can just climb up there and sit in a chair or something, and relax a little bit, hop back in.
Nice.
So that's the last major project that I'm aware of anyways. That's on my list.
That's not the end of it. Is
And
that all you did this last week?
Well, so Sunday we had my bachelor party, which thank you, Steve and Nate and everyone else who came out for it. It was a fantastic time, to say the least. So a lot of really great time. We went to High Bank Distillery, did a tour there, and
we've had on the podcast before. We had Adam, who came over and said hi.
Yeah. I had a wonderful tasting there of a wide variety of products, which anyone out there listening in the Columbus area, if you've not been out there yet, I highly, highly recommend it.
Heard that tasting got out of control at the end.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Which one?
The High Bank.
I'm not out of control. There's extra bottles out there, right?
Yeah, there was just a few extra things to taste. That's all.
The tour guide, Todd. Yeah, so he was actually excited because there were bottles that were on the table, and then another table that were in the same area that he was like, well, I mean, they're out, so.
And he did say if they're out when he does a tour, it's fair game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and I showed up after that.
You did.
But you know, they have a lot of really great products. Honestly, there wasn't anything there that I did not like.
Good.
Yeah, when we had them on, we had all three or their three main whiskey products.
Yeah.
The bourbon, the bourbon and port, and then the
barrel proof. Yep.
Which was just what was that awarded? The barrel proof one.
Got gold, I think, in San Francisco.
Yeah, it was for best blended whiskey in America.
I think it won best overall.
That's a hell
best
of an
overall
achievement right there.
Yeah. And then we had brunch there, which fantastic food as well.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't know what cocktail AJ ordered for me. It was like executive staycation or something.
Watermelon.
Yeah, had watermelon in it. It was. I need to find the recipe for it. That's all I know.
You know where to find the drink.
I do know where to find the drink.
Some whiskey and some melon pucker.
If you guys are interested in trying some of the cocktails, best time to do it is Monday through Friday over at High Bank, 3 to 6, 3 to 7, something like that. They're all half off.
Yeah. They're happy hour.
Yeah.
And then we went over to Watershed. Had a phenomenal tour by none other than Ann Dimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Had her on a few times.
Yeah. Awesome tour. It was really cool because it's the first time I had ever been to either of those distilleries. Just to kind of see the processes and of the way they do things, you know, especially High Bank.
Yeah.
You know, they pride themselves as being called a craft distillery, so much so that they literally bottle and do everything by hand.
Mm-hmm.
They do 4 bottles at a time.
Now they're gonna be able to do 8.
Yeah, they doubled their production. And you know, put the labels on by hand, the whole 9 yards. But you know, Watershed was really great. Had a tasting of a wide variety of stuff from them. And an item that's not yet released.
July 1st.
Well, not
July
1st. If you don't follow Watershed, please do.
I think
now.
Ann said we could post it and talk about it, but
I don't think they have yet.
No. What? No, I don't think they have.
I'm gonna wait.
New Watershed product coming out July 1st.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Very, very good.
Especially when you mix it with no chino.
I'm pretty sure any other whiskeys.
Steve and I created
delicious.
that cocktail at the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when Ann was on, you know, she brought the Watershed 6 year for the 10th anniversary, which is finished in the Ochino barrels, and that bottle was emptied, and then there was the regular bottle of Watershed and the Nocino. So we just started mixing the regular bourbon and the Nocino together. It was fantastic.
And then we did the same with that other product.
Yes. And it was even better.
Yeah. I think the blend of that new item.
Yeah, and then they have
Nocino was really good.
And then they have the bottles that we can talk about, and that's when 3 different parts of their company each did their own single barrel picks. So you had like the ladies in the company, you had the kitchen staff, and then you had the people that like work in the distillery portion. Yeah, like each one of them picked a barrel. And those
had single barrels, right? And they were all labeled, and they were quite different, all of them.
Yes, they were. Yep. And they're only available at either the distillery or the restaurant they're across the street from each other.
Yeah.
But Ann was explaining they're actually 2 separate liquor locations in the states.
They have two licenses.
Yeah.
Long story short, check it out, both of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get to JTS Brown.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. No, we want to have Ann back on, and hopefully we can have some Watershed products coming forward, as well as some of the High Bank stuff.
I think she's slotted for the end of the month.
Yeah. I got to verify that because there was a lot of booze.
Yes, there was.
So I'll verify that. Make sure her calendar matches ours.
Yes.
But anyways, let's get to the JTS Brown. Like I said, a Heaven Hill product. Mm-hmm. Nate, I assume you looked it up a little bit, but has roots all the way to Brown Foreman.
Yeah. So it's named after one of 2 brothers, John Thompson Street Brown Sr. So thankfully they just went with JTS Brown. Little shorter, easier to say.
Mouthful, yeah. Absolutely.
Him and his half brother George Brown opened a wholesale liquor business in 1855. It later became known as Brown Foreman, and it was eventually developed into the Heaven Hill after Prohibition ended. It became Heaven Hill in 1935. Is when that started.
Okay.
Heaven Hills had some fairly recent history. In 96, their distillery burned down.
Yep.
And they lost 90,000 barrels.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And the whiskey actually ran into a nearby creek. And for 2 miles from that distillery, the creek was on fire.
Yep.
Why would you laugh at that?
So
what's terrible?
When was the last time you saw a body of water on fire?
I mean, they had
depends on how many movies
major
they've watched.
issues with that, if I remember.
Yeah, there were a lot of issues. Obviously there's a huge environmental impact that they had to pay for, the cleanup and everything like that.
That's what I'm saying.
But what was nice was there were some other companies in the area that then allowed them or helped them stay afloat and actually made some of their product at their places.
Yeah.
And distill elsewhere, so that way they could keep it going. Because they're actually the largest family-owned distillery in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
The facility that they're running in now, they actually purchased from Diageo.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they are the second largest spirits holder in the U.S. in terms of barrels of product.
I'm pretty sure the distillery, a portion of it is actually called the Bourbon Heritage Center as well, or something like that.
I don't know.
I think when I went down there, I think I remember it was labeled that. It's kind of cool though. Their distillery is beautiful. Their tasting room is really cool because you walk into it and it's all boarded in. It looks like you're walking inside of a barrel. And it's kind of like a circle panel in there for the tasting. It's a really neat facility.
Yeah, their headquarters in Bardstown, but they don't actually do any distilling anymore in Bardstown after the fire.
Right.
So a lot of their distilling is in Louisville.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Or just outside of Louisville.
Just outside. It's right next to Willett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're heading down there in 2 weeks, about a week and a half.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really on the tour plans, but you never know where we end up. So we can at least drive by there possibly.
I know some of the places you can pop in and go to the gift shop and see what they have there, even if you don't go on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's changed much in the last year and a half. I know it.
I bet you a lot of the gift shops are maybe open still, but I know some of the tours aren't happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think more and more have opened up, but it's still hit and miss.
One interesting pop culture reference with this product. You remember the movie The Hustler?
Hustler.
Fast Eddie Felson, the pool shark movie. This was his drink of choice, JTS Brown.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
You're welcome. For those who are watching, you see that it is a giant bottle. It's a 1.75.
That's right.
That is the only size available in the state of Ohio.
And also the only one available is the 80 proof.
Yes, they also do a bottled and bond of this. So that'd be a 4-year Hunter proof.
Right.
That is not available in the state of Ohio. The only thing we can get here is the 80 proof, and it only comes in this 1.75 liter bottle.
Plastic bottle.
Plastic bottle with the little control pour plastic insert in it, which I'd normally just take out.
Naturally.
Pours better.
It's aged for 36 months. They have to put that on the bottle, and it's on the neck label. Yeah, so 3 years. 3-year bourbon.
All right, so we got 3-year bourbon. All right, Dustin, you start then. What do you think? You say it's delicious.
It is. It reminds me a lot of, and this isn't available in the state of Ohio anymore, but it reminds me of the ancient age 10-star. Mm-hmm. Real light, good bit of sweetness.
The 10-star?
Yeah, the 10-star.
That still is available in Ohio, but it's one of those that the liquor stores hold and wait until, because I got a bottle of it at my liquor store 2 months ago.
They have ancient age, but there's ancient age.
Yeah, there's the ancient age, the 10-star, and then the 10-year.
Oh.
The 10-star,
Uh-oh.
10-star, I got a bottle of recently,
All right, prove it.
but it's hard. It's
All right,
hard.
I'm gonna say I've not seen it.
It's hard to find because it's one of those that anytime it would pop up on the shelf, like people would immediately gobble it up.
Yeah, because it's a handle like this for $12, $15, give or take.
something like that.
What's the
Yeah.
price of this one here?
$18.99.
$18.99 in the state of Ohio for a 1.75. Okay, so yeah, Dustin, what do you think?
I mean, it's got a nice little subtle spice there, right off the tip.
Right.
But a good bit of sweetness spreads across the palate. And you
Mhm.
like that, Steve? Just the tip.
Apparently you did.
She did. But yeah, it's a lot of really good flavor for just 80 proof. Real easy drinker. Just kind of sits in the middle of the palate for the finish. And the finish is next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a be careful
Yeah.
drinker is what one of those are. It's a will get you into trouble very quickly if you're not careful.
Yeah. It's very smooth for being, this is something that in the state of Ohio, it's going to be on the bottom shelf. And obviously bottom shelf bottles have certain reputations. But anyone that knows me knows that you can find some absolutely fantastic bottles on the bottom shelf.
Mm-hmm.
This Heaven Hill, the actual Heaven Hill white label in Ohio.
Yep.
Great bottles that are under $20.
Oh, without a doubt.
So just
Oh,
because
even,
it's on the bottom shelf doesn't mean it's something to avoid.
Well, the old granddad bottled in bond.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
featured that on here before. It's a really good one.
I would say anytime you're in that range, not to take away from what you're reviewing here, but I think anytime you're in that range, you're hoping two things. I am, at least, is that it's not terrible. You know what I mean? Honestly, is that it's not going to be that bad for that much whiskey, not knowing anything about it,
For
less than $20. Like at the very least, hopefully I can put it with a Coke. You know what I mean? I can actually, put ice in it or something. I can make it a cocktail with it or something like that. But at least if you can find something like this, where I'm not saying everyone's going to sip on it neat, but I mean, if you can, then yes, it is an absolute steal, and that's the big win.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great things about this. Like, this is a bottle that you can buy for $20, and it is an everyday drinker.
Yeah.
You can just sit there and have a couple sips. You can, have some friends over and kill the entire bottle and not feel bad about it.
How
You're
many is a
feel
couple?
bad if you kill that.
I would say a couple people. Is this 3 of you? Is it just 2
Just
of you?
keep rolling like I did the last week and a half. Thank you to Elena, Bobby Hirschman.
Where's that half gallon of Old Forester?
It's gone.
Yeah. I bought that Saturday. I come over Wednesday. There's 2 pours left.
Oh darn!
It's what happens when you have bourbon drinkers stay in your house, or we hang out with them, or
yeah,
or
yeah.
is kind of how I was talking. Probably. Nate, what do you think?
No, I really like this. I remember a little over a year ago when Jake was in town, he had brought a bottle of the bottled in bond.
That's right.
And gave it to you. And I came over one evening for the podcast and had a sip of that. And the bottled in bond, I didn't care for it.
Really?
I really didn't like it. And I never really remembered seeing this around town. And one day I happened to go into Chateau's and I saw it on the bottom shelf. I saw it was $18.99 for this size of a bottle. I'm like, why not? It's not the bottled in bond. It's a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll enjoy it. And I've gone through a few bottles of this before in the course of the last year and a half.
I was waiting to see if you would say few months.
No.
That's what happens at my house.
I was going to say I bought one of these.
If Nate lived closer,
Woo!
I feel like
I could open a liquor store on the corner and make bank.
Yeah.
No, I actually bought one of these a couple months back to have in the garage for an upcoming episode.
That's right.
But Steve ran out of his not rare whiskey, so he still has like his Willet and stuff, and he's like, those are special occasion whiskeys. I don't have a daily drinker, so he started dipping into this bottle that I had up there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
which is fine. It's a $20 bottle. You're not hurting my feelings.
Oh, all right. Hang on, I forgot.
No, you. No, I was gonna say you should keep it for buying me a cocktail on Sunday.
Oh well, that's what happens.
But then I also drove you home, so.
I also gave you some special blends.
Yes, you did.
Are we doing this?
I mean, I just hold my hand out.
We just keep
hold my
money.
pocket open.
We don't want to keep track of that. Alex says, "Hey, look, Nate made the cut for this episode. Didn't get fired
because he texted me last week because he's like, hey, I didn't see you on the camera. Did you get fired?
All of a sudden, got Dustin, and I am not trying to say anything, but you had Melissa Ann, who I actually know, by the way.
Yeah,
I was surprised. She's like, I was looking for the Kroger guy. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, all right, I'll sit these out, I guess. I mean, you guys do your own podcast.
Well, all you have to do is get COVID again, and Dustin and I can do one.
Well, there you go. Perfect. Something to shoot for. Here you go, Craig. I think this is a good bottle. I think it is. You can actually sip on it. I don't think it's going to blow you away. I don't think it's super complex.
No.
I think.
No.
Do we know the mash bill of this? I don't think we went over that unless I wasn't paying attention because.
No.
Do they not release it, or we just don't have it?
I've not found anything, and from what I have read, like it's not one that they really try and release the information on that.
Okay.
Although there's some stuff on the bottom or on the back label if you want to read that.
I will. Shannon, if you could, actually, we also have another audience member, Sean. He's watching live. No, you don't have to do anything right now, but try to catch him so that the other audience member doesn't sick him. What's that? Yeah, just text him and say, come in and come straight over to Tony. That's the new rule. If you guys come into the audience, you have to introduce yourself to Tony first before going to your chair. Yep. JTS Brown. So originally established 1855, we established that has distilled Kentucky's finest bourbon for more than 100 years under a traditional, time-honored method handed down by 3 generations. It is noted for its lighter, milder flavor, smoothness, and delicate aroma. Fully matured for 36 months, no better bourbon can be produced. That last statement's a little bold.
Well, on the front of the bottle, underneath is Kentucky's finest.
I mean, it's like when you go to, it's in the movie Elf. You know what I mean? It's like they have like the world's best coffee on a sign outside. You know what I mean? Like I was in Hilliard, Ohio, I think, and I was at Starliner Diner.
Oh yeah, right around the corner.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner from me.
Doesn't mean you've been there.
Okay.
That's too
fair point.
Jesus. But my point is that it says on the menu, it's like Hilliard's best chili.
How many places in Hilliard serve chili?
All I know is I had to order the chili.
Yeah. How many
if you're
skylines
going
are
to
there?
be in an area, like no matter if it's the worlds, the cities, the Hilliard, Ohio, which I like a lot. But if it says world's best or
best in town,
you have to order it. I don't
You
care
gotta
if you're
put it to the
allergic
test.
or something. I mean, you have to go around town the rest of the afternoon trying the other chilies, which I did not do.
So should the Tinder Box have a shelf talker underneath the BS saying like best cigar in Columbus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Back to JTS Brown. I mean, it's accurate. I think it's easy drinking. There's not a whole lot of complexity to it. It's I don't know about. It's not like one of the ones that it tastes like corn water necessarily, but I will say that it's got a little bit of that corn sweetness to it.
Yeah, but it's not overly sweet.
Right.
No, I think the sweetness that I get from it is like a light brown sugar honey type sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
But it blends well with that spice up front. It just so you get the sweetness at the end.
Yeah. It's more like a honey, not a rich caramel
Darker,
or butterscotch or anything like that. It's a little bit lighter, more like a honey sweetness.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird. The texture of it, the mouth feels kind of thin, but it also has an oily texture to it.
Well, I think goes back to that 80 proof.
Yeah.
That, even at just 3 years old, they would have to proof that down a lot to get it down to that.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're looking at,
listen, like, it's not the dog, it's you.
Well, I'm not allowed. You can't take me anywhere.
You're kicking things under the table. What's going on here?
I mean, this
I'm not allowed to have nice things.
yeah, I mean, this is probably going into the barrel somewhere.
Too.
This is probably going into the barrel somewhere between 130 and 140 proof, and then it's only in there for 3 years, so you're not going to lose a whole lot.
No.
So
you're
yeah,
not.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, barrel proof of this is probably still going to be in like around that 130 mark. So yeah, they would have. To, they're proofing it down quite a bit.
Well, and I want to try the bottled and bond again, based on your statement of you're enjoying this a little bit.
I did not get the chance to try the bottled and bond, so I'd be very intrigued to do so myself.
Yeah.
Being one who does like higher proof stuff, I think for me personally, I would probably enjoy it a little bit more. But I think with it being summer and as hot as it has been until today or yesterday, this is a perfect. You can have it neat out on your porch, deck, patio, and actually thoroughly enjoy it and enjoy yourself because let's be honest, it got proof down, so you're staying hydrated.
Yeah, this kind of reminds with the 80 proof and the little lighter flavor, not light on flavor, just a lighter type of flavor to it. It does kind of remind me a little bit of some Irish whiskeys. Like a nice summer.
It's got, it's light, it's sweet. I get what you're saying there, but
like this is the Irish whiskey of the bourbon world. That lightness to it. Is that's what I'm gathering from it.
Disagree with it.
Okay.
All right, that's fine. That's what's great about this. We can all have it.
I do agree with Steve's point that it's an easy drinker and easy on the wallet.
All right, Jesus.
No.
This is so good to have you both on at the same time.
Oh, I love you.
Can I have $20?
No.
I was asking Nate, not you.
No.
I was going to buy you a cocktail Sunday, but Steve beat me to it.
Oh, AJ did too.
I know.
I also, but never mind. No, I bought the first round actually you weren't there at High Bank. Best man duties, man.
Yeah.
I also gave the cue. So this is a side note, and I'm not pointing it out to anyone out there that was there. I think everyone tried to reciprocate because we were also getting fed a lot of booze, you know what I mean, during the tours. But
yeah,
I was like, oh wow, I got the first round. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I did. This is something to note down.
Yeah.
We're at a bachelor party. There'll be a rehearsal dinner. There's going to be a wedding. There's plenty of opportunity to.
Well, when we were at Watershed, I was going to buy you and Dustin a drink, and then you went ahead and bought everyone old fashions. And I was like, well, all right, maybe I'll get the next one. And then we ate, and that was the end of that.
Yeah. I would say my generosity was fueled by whiskey.
Yeah.
But it was good. I enjoyed it. Absolutely enjoyed it.
It was a really great time.
Let's
Thank
go
you guys.
to the
what are we smoking on?
The cigar. And I also, Bobby Hirschman, if you're still out there, I appreciate the support and everything else of the podcast. He's on here right now, but he's got to go back off the air. He's hoping to get back on, but he also bailed on a round of shots from Amy Schertzinger, who's been on the podcast at McClellan's. We made, if anyone wants to come in town in Columbus, Ohio, it's a support of the podcast. We've got a great community, and that's kind of what happened this last weekend. So we had, I mentioned it, Elena was in town for Bourbon and Blondes before that, and so she was able to experience some of the people that you kind of interact with that are local here in Columbus, Ohio. Bobby Hirschman and Corey and Scott came in town from Philly, and they stayed locally, and they basically spent a lot of their time supporting some other cigar shops, but especially the Tinder Box at Easton and Fido Irish Pub next door. And then we made a stop out to it. Shannon Chapman and I went out and hung out with those guys over at Amy's McClellan's Pub. So anyone wants to know how it is here, Bobby Hirschman says, best town ever and great people. Wow, so much fun. He says that, Tinder Box is second to Old Havana, where he's at in Westchester, PA. So, yeah, you guys are always welcome to come see us, and hopefully we'll be able to spend some time with you guys and smoke some cigars and drink. Bobby Hirschman did also point out that Nate did not have any drinks with Bobby while he was in town.
True.
Looks like you have to buy another round.
But with the Rocky Patel Edge Sumatra, the Edge is a line that's been around for a while, but I mean, it's kind of one of the lower price points from Rocky, not going into the bundled lines. But I mean, this is something that it comes in typically a 100 count crate.
Yeah.
A lot of times. I think you can get them in different things now, but typically like the Edge Sumatra that we have at the Tinder Box at Easton, our sponsor, came in a 100-count crate. And these are very, very basically packaged cigars. They have just the footband on them that says Edge Sumatra or Edge now Connecticut or Edge Maduro, Edge Habano, and they're all color coded, if you will, different colors.
Mm-hmm.
This one is that maroon?
Like, maroon,
Like a
burgundy.
maroon? Yeah. And so this one, it's interesting to me because it's very flavorful. Nate, you said I think this is your favorite Edge.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
You have a Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper. You have a Honduran binder, and then I think Nicaraguan mainly filler, if not all Nicaraguan filler. And this is something that Rocky and the company did through the Plasencia Farms. I don't know if you guys knew that, out of Honduras.
No, it did not.
Yeah. So it's funny.
Their farms, not their factory. Okay.
Nah. So out of the factory. So when this first came out, this was done. It was a Plasencia family product at their, and I'll look it up here. I forget what the
in Honduras, not the
in Honduras. So it was at the El Paraiso factory owned by the Plasencia family. Fast forward, what was this article actually? 2007. Fast forward, now it is made in the same area on the Plasencia factories, but Rocky Patel owns that part of the factory. So it's technically their workers, their rollers, and everything else. So it's still it's still manufactured more or less in the same fashion as it was originally, and it's in the same area. But now it is that basically there was an acquisition, or basically I think my understanding is Rocky Patel basically bought out that part of
the operation,
and now it's a Rocky Patel part of, you know what I mean? So
It's
Rocky
like a
can do
partial
that.
acquisition.
yeah. So I mean, it's kind of cool because they were doing so much product. I think that he was just like, well, what if I just take over this part of it, and I'll give whatever. I'll give you this sum of money or whatever, and then they'll be our employees, and you won't have to worry about this part of the factory. Is how I envision that happening. But so I mean, I think it's very cool. We obviously have been talking about Plasencia a lot on this podcast, and rightfully so. It's some great tobacco. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, change banners. Okay, you can just say it.
I'll be honest, this is the first Edge that I've had.
So-
Ironically,
Yeah.
Ever.
that I can recall. Now, if I did have another one, I don't.
You have the
remember
Edge,
doing so.
Edge Light, Edge Maduro, Edge Sumatra, and then the Edge
There's
Habano.
Is there an Edge Corojo or no?
I don't believe
no,
so.
I don't know.
No.
I don't believe
Okay.
so. Yeah, Sumatra is going to be this maroon or whatever. The light now, the Connecticut, because they can't call it light anymore. So they had to rebrand that. That's in a very light shade, like almost like a cream.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You have the Maduro, that's a
Darker brown.
darker brown. The
Yeah.
Habano is a blue,
Yeah, like a sky blue, like the Rocky Patel sign
Yeah.
behind you.
like Dustin.
No, I think more the sign behind you from Rocky. It's that kind of
It's pretty
blue.
close to Dustin.
Well,
it was a little lighter, but
I was pointing out the Rocky Patel sign since
That's
we're
fair.
smoking Rocky.
That's fair.
But yeah, when
Right,
we
yeah.
were in the
Oh,
shop
all right.
yesterday,
Right there.
when
Right
we were in the
shoulder.
shop yesterday, since we were going to drink this and this is a inexpensive bottle, you came up with the idea. It's like, hey, maybe we should do kind of what Dustin came up with a few years ago, the whole balling on a budget
Yeah.
idea, which I think that episode you guys drank like Heaven Hill or something like
Evan-
that.
it
Evan
was
Williams.
Evan Williams bottled in bond.
Yeah, which is like
Yep.
a $14 bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the cigar was that we did, but
Yeah.
I have it on a spreadsheet. But yeah, so that's when we were in the shop yesterday. I was like, all right, what's an inexpensive cigar that we haven't featured? And I was like, I don't think we've done any edges.
Yeah, we've been rolling through the humidor at Tinder Box at Easton, trying to figure out what we haven't done in a while. And that hasn't been just a new cigar, and that was definitely one, the whole line. So we still have some, and we had some other ideas as well.
Yeah, we did.
But this has got a nice sheen to the wrapper. So this one comes in around that $7 price point. This is the Toro size.
Yeah.
And I think the MSRP would probably be around $7. I'm not really sure. I think in the state of Ohio on our shelf with Keystone markups like $7.95. It's creeped up over the years. A budget cigar anymore that's going to be not a bundled cigar. I think it's going to come in at that $7 to $8 price point anymore,
Mhm.
at least in the state of Ohio. Not sure about where you guys are at, but yeah, there's a nice sheen to it. There's a nice construction. Not the heaviest cigar, but it's also not the lightest cigar.
It's got like a velvety texture to that wrapper.
That's what I mean, like a sheen almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got like silkiness.
And I think the other thing that they kind of did is very simplistic for like the band is literally it was just a foot band. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which people that are not used to it, I've seen people buy an Edge
And light up the band.
not
on it.
realize it's a foot band and light it up with that foot band still on it.
Yeah.
That always smells lovely. I
Yeah,
actually did
doesn't.
I was actually at a cigar
it was
shop a couple of
sarcasm.
years ago and doing a blind tasting, and there were 3 cigars in a bag, no bands on them, and didn't know if they were from the same manufacturer, different manufacturers. But the first 2 I looked at, and just looking at the cigars, I was like, I can tell by looking at them that these are made by the same manufacturer.
Is that right?
They were both Rocky Patels, and they were 2 different Edge cigars, and this was one of them.
Interesting.
But yeah,
And you're a fan of this
I
one. Yeah.
really like this cigar. I get this nice, smooth nuttiness to the cigar. Steve, I know you don't know what that is because nuts will kill you.
Used to eat Honey Nut Cheerios as a kid.
But no, it's got kind of this almond,
Facts.
like it's got this earthiness to it, but a little bit of sweetness as well.
Definitely get that sweetness.
Yeah, and that's why I really enjoy this cigar, because it's got a great flavor. It's at a great price point. And as I said with the whiskey, that being an everyday sipper, like this is an everyday kind of cigar.
Let me ask you this. I'm sorry, Dustin, before you.
No, go ahead.
When was the last time you smoked an Edge Sumatra, saying that it's one of your favorites? You really like the cigar, excuse me.
Yeah, you told me this is what we're doing. I'm like, I love that cigar.
There you go. When was the last time you smoked it?
It's been over a year.
Which I will say that is something that I think some of us need to realize, that you smoke so many different products that sometimes you have to go back to and try to review, like, what did I used to really enjoy?
That happened to me yesterday when we were in the shop.
Okay.
There was a cigar that I smoked at the shop that I hadn't smoked in quite a while. And all of a sudden that cigar, it tasted absolutely phenomenal.
What was
And
that?
that was the Sober Mesa
Oh, yeah.
from Steve Saka. And a couple weekends before that, I had smoked my first Le Bijou in like a year with some red wine. I was like, this is the best Le Bijou. So I think what I need to do is, if I find a cigar I really enjoy, I need to not smoke it for like 6 months and then come back like, oh yeah, this is fantastic.
I'm pleasantly
You
surprised.
could just smoke it more often.
I know,
That
but
too.
then I get used to it, and
That's fair.
the greatness of that cigar starts to wear off.
Yeah.
But so if I go, a while without smoking it and then come back to it, it's almost like having it for that first time again.
I remember my first time.
Do you?
Dustin, what do you think of this cigar? You have not had any Edge, including the Edge Sumatra, is what you've stated.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first Edge that I've had. And I'm with Nate. I'm really enjoying this cigar. It's got a very nice creaminess to it. It's a very easy smoker. This is a solid, medium body.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put it at full, really,
Mm-mm.
at
Nope.
all.
Nope.
But I think, that sweetness, and I'll throw my odd note out there, but like a toasted marshmallow.
Mm.
Okay.
Kind of like that sweetness of the marshmallow, but you still get that kind of like toastiness to it.
That char.
Yeah. That kind of charred on the outside, but you still get to that sweetness. No real major pepperiness to it that I'm getting. Then again, like, I can't retrohale, so I don't know if there's any spice in the retrohale at all. But I think it does go very well with the JTS Brown as far as that budget combo. And I would even venture to say it's a budget beginners combo too.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to venture into those more medium body cigars and kind of get into it a little bit more, not have that spice that comes with some of those medium body cigars to punch you in the back of the throat. Like, this is the Edge Sumatra is the way to go.
Yeah.
Compare it with the JTS Brown. If you're wanting to dabble into bourbon and kind of get into that world, I mean, you're doing pretty well.
That entire bottle and this cigar, you're in for under $30.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and hopefully, if you're doing this by yourself, also, is that you would need more than just the one cigar to get through that bottle.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, even then, think about it. If you've got a few buddies, say there's two or about three of you guys around, you're still in sub $50, almost sub $45 for 3 cigars in the bottle.
Yeah,
and that's not a half bad night at all.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not. This cigar.
You said Honduran wrap or binder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Ecuadorian Sumatra
wrapper.
Which is where the Sumatra comes from, right?
So, yeah. There's a
The
3
name.
country because then you got the Nicaraguan filler.
Primarily. Yeah.
Primarily, yeah.
Well, and that was off of an aficionado, just a quick review here. So let me see.
Well, that was like 20 years ago.
No, but I think that's one of the reasons.
Well, I asked the local Midwest rep, Rob Wilson, who's been on the podcast before. I verified with him, and he's the one that shared the information about the Placencia factory turning into the Rocky Patel. I said, here's the text exchange, and this is, I was a little upset about it. Not upset. I said, hey, is the Edge Sumatra still made by Placencia? By our factory, Placencia Farms. I said, different than Placencia? Yes/no, ha ha ha. Explanation point 3 times. What the fuck is what I wrote back. and then he called me. And then he explained that whole other side of it. So that's where I was like, but over the phone, I was like, the blend stayed the same. He said, yeah, no, everything's the same. So
no, I think that's one of the reasons why Dustin may not be getting a whole lot of spice, and I don't get any spice out of it either.
No.
So you got the Ecuadorian Sumatra, which is a fantastic wrapper. Like, I love Ecuadorian Sumatra. I love Ecuadorian Connecticut. I just love the creamy texture of the smoke that those leaves produce.
Mm-hmm.
And this one does it as well. But then having that Honduran binder is what I think provides a little bit extra sweetness to it. But I'm surprised with primarily you said Nicaraguan filler that there's not more spice to the cigar.
how did you get 2 reviews of the cigar?
Shut up.
I
I didn't contradict myself.
No, I'm not saying you did. I'll just use your second one.
No, come up with your own shit.
Well, I was trying to, and then you started reviewing it twice.
Are you surprised? The Russian's got to butt his way in one way or another.
No, I'm just giving Nate. I'm giving you shit. Jesus Christ. I've seen Nate a lot in the last week. Oh my gosh. But that being said, no, I was just gonna say. All I want to say was that it is a very enjoyable smoke. No one said it. I guess I get a little bit of like the cedary woodiness with the sweetness. I get a little bit of that. It's a little different because there is no pepper, or not much, if any, at least on my palate, and it sounds like that is agreed upon. But there is a little bit of that cedary woodiness that I'm getting with some of the sweetness.
That's probably,
some of that.
That's probably where I'm getting that, like toasted charred marshmallows, probably that kind of cedary woodness.
Yeah, a little smokiness to it. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm looking at it is that's one of the things that really stands out to me. Now, I will say that some of you that smoke it, if you don't like that, that's what I'm getting. It's kind of on the front of my palate, almost not on the sides, not on the front, but kind of on the corners, if you will, of that area between that saltiness and sweetness. So that might be part of it for me. That's where I'm getting a little bit of this. Is that I'm enjoying it, but if that's hitting your palate wrong, that's the overwhelming area of the tongue that I'm getting. I don't know about you guys. It's kind of right in the corners. I know it's not a squared off 90 degree. For most people, I know some people probably have different birth defects that you're going to have a little harder edges on the tongue. But for me, it's kind of like that. Like when you cut a cigar, what do I say? That on the shoulder?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, like on the shoulder of your tongue. Dustin looks very confused right now.
I'm just enjoying the cigar and whiskey.
For those of you who can follow along at home, I want to say that trying to paint a picture here for you. It's not on the front. It's not on the side. It's kind of on that. What would you call it then?
Steve's Anatomy 101.
What would you call it?
You did a great job, Bob Ross.
Let's go around the table real quick.
Some
What would you
birds
call
in
that
there.
part of your tongue?
No,
Come up with a better one. Dustin, you're
It's not
you're
the
smiling.
corners. It's not the tip. It's the shoulders.
That's what I said. What do you say?
I'm not disagreeing.
I'm not saying I disagree.
Well,
I never said I
didn't give me
disagree.
shit about
And
it.
I wasn't giving you
You're
shit
looking at
about
me
it.
like I'm
Like, all
crazy.
right, I get it. Cool. Like,
I'm just shocked it took you this long to figure that out.
I just had to take a couple more puffs to see if that's where it was hitting on my tongue too.
Todd Conley says, laughing my ass off, 33 degrees from the left. Yeah.
Oh, there are access points.
Ian
for
says,
these.
is that how Steve explains the problems for the ladies? I don't know what problems you're talking about.
Steve doesn't have a problem with them.
If anything, you need to never mind.
Turns
All right.
turns on the navigation system. Hello.
You should be. I really want to say something.
Are you biting your tongue
If you,
at the shoulders?
there will be no problems with the ladies if you learn how to use the 33 degrees from the left of your tongue. How about that? Using their words. All right.
Well said.
Gee. This one's going south.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
All right. Let's move on here. Let's do the rating here. So again, if you guys are joining us for the first time, we do an out of 10 rating towards the end of part 1 here, and we are, what is it, coming up on that time? Yeah, 10 being the best. Rate the whiskey, rate the cigar, and then rate the pairing together based on your personal opinion. And if anyone's had this, Todd Conley says, put that on a shirt. I don't think I'm gonna. But the whiskey is the JTS Brown. The cigar is the Edge Sumatra from Rocky Patel. And Dustin, I think you haven't been on in front of the camera for a little while. You know,
Is that how the ratings work? I don't remember.
well, normally we do the guest of honor or whatever. So I'm gonna put you first.
Oh, okay. So for the whiskey, I give it a good, a solid 8. I think, it's a super easy drinker. It's super easy on the wallet. It's very versatile. I would say you could definitely drink it neat. You could do it as a mixer if you wanted. I wouldn't add an ice cube to it, just because I wouldn't want to water it down any more than it kind of already is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would recommend is you could keep it chilled and do it that way if you wanted.
Okay.
If you did want it cold, or maybe go the route of like whiskey stones, keep it chilled so where it doesn't water it down. But I think it's that perfect summer whiskey. When it is hot out, but you just want something nice to enjoy, and you don't want a cocktail, and you just want to keep going. Freddie says 100 proof is a 8.5, but I've not tried the bottled in bond, but I am intrigued to give it a shot and do my own comparison on the two.
We'll see if we can find someone. We're down in Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
As for the cigar, again, I think I would give that another solid 8.5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know based on my palate, I don't like something that's going to be overly peppery. I do like a little bit of spice here and there, but not something that's going to be kind of over the top. This is definitely well below that range. It's very enjoyable. Again, light for a medium-bodied smoke. I think that comes in thanks to the creaminess and velvetiness of it. Packs a good bit of sweetness to it. So I give it a solid 8.5. I think the pairing together is also, an 8.5. Very good together. Very easy on the wallet. For those of you dabbling in cigars and whiskey and wanting to get into one or the other or both, I definitely recommend giving them both a shot, especially together.
Okay. Nate, how about yourself? And in the intermission here, I do want to say, Freddie Burt says cigar 8, bourbon 7.5. And he says that 100 proof is 8.5. Freddie, throw out your pairing if you ever had them together. Go ahead, Nate.
So on the whiskey, I'm there with Dustin. I'm an 8 on the whiskey. There was one time we were doing one of those Sunday check-ins, and people had asked us like, "What are your favorite, under $25, under $30 bottles?" this is one of my favorite, under $25 bottles.
Yeah.
Under $20.
It's an under $20 bottle before sales tax. $18.99 for a half gallon. It's got a nice little amount of sweetness to it. But as Steve alluded to, not very corn heavy on the flavor. It's got an easy finish. And it's just a really good everyday type of sipper. And I think it's one of the best bang for buck whiskeys on the shelf in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the best whiskey, but for the money you're spending, it's absolutely fantastic. Steve needs more. On the cigar, I'm in a solid 8 on the cigar as well. I really enjoy the cigar. It's got a really good flavor to it. It's not overly complex smoke. It's very straightforward, but it's got a good taste. It burns well, draws well, good construction on it. And again, for what you're paying, that $7 to $8 range, depending on your state's OTP taxes, it's a great budget-friendly cigar. And, just because it's under that $10 price point does not mean, you should shy away from it, or it's not going to give you a good amount of flavor or a good smoking experience. I think the entire Edge line, for the most part, is something from Rocky that gets overlooked just because he makes so many cigars and so many fantastic cigars that tend to be more in that I'd say $11 to $13, $14 price point.
And he's coming out with some that are going to be even more than that. And I say that
he's been coming
lightly,
out.
So I'm excited to try the Rocky Patel 60th.
Yeah, he's
So,
been coming out with a lot of blends lately that have been so different from what he's done in the past, and he's just knocking it out of the park. He's been in the business for 25 years, and he's coming out with some of his best stuff now, I think.
He's definitely expanding his portfolio in a good way.
But as far as the pairing, I'm a 9 on the pairing.
Wow.
I think with the sweetness of this cigar and the sweetness of the whiskey, they go really well together, but they're not overly sweet.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no spice on the cigar, so any spice that's there on the whiskey, it still plays well with the sweetness of the cigar and the whiskey. I think they really go well together. They're not fighting for your taste buds. You can taste both of them, but they enhance one another.
Okay. That's pretty strong ratings there.
It's back-to-back strong weight ratings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
It's on a roll.
The whiskey is enjoyable. I would say the JTS Brown, the 80 proof, is a nice everyday whiskey, and I think it's priced accordingly. I think it's fantastic. I think it's in a sense, sounds bad. It's nothing special. This is something that you're not going to necessarily say for a nightcap.
Yeah.
But as Nate alluded to, there was a night I was actually setting up. I'll be honest, setting up some of the details about the 2 trips with Elena.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when this was the budget bottle in the house. And I was like, well, looking around my selection, I'm like, I could use a pour here. No.
I had like 3 other bottles saved up for the podcast. But you're like, that's the biggest one.
Well, we had other bottles for the podcast. I had some of the stuff you mentioned. My collection is minimizing right now. And we've talked about that, the reason why, but some of it's been some more unique bottles or harder to get bottles, nothing crazy. Yeah. But this was sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I know you can still find it. So
yeah, it's pretty readily available.
As they say, $20 is $20. So there you go. So I'd say just for anyone playing at home at the drinking game, I'll do an 8.5, 8.5. If anyone's playing the Bourbon and BS podcast drinking game,
please drink responsibly.
Yeah, please drink responsibly. Let me throw that out there here. But no, I mean, I think it's not a 10. This isn't, price point in there. It gives it that half a point bounce, I'd say. You know what I mean? Okay. As opposed to that, it is quite enjoyable just for what it is. Again, the cigar right there with it. This is something that the cigar is something that I don't always go back to. Like I kind of said, Jonathan Herring says he's playing. Good. I hope you're at home.
Yes.
I believe the other one is at the end of the day,
You got to focus.
If you're, I have to say that.
Budget.
Yeah.
Littering
No,
game.
all right. Let me do my fucking review. All right. The Edge Sumatra from Rocky Patel is a very solid, again, $7 to $8 cigar. I think this is something that's enjoyable. We already reviewed it, but I would give it an 8. I think this is a well-deserved 8 because when you look at other things out there, when you have to compare a vast humidor, let alone just Rocky Patel's portfolio, this is an 8.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Including the price point. But I mean, this is not his best. This is not going to be an outstanding, cigar based on some of the other things, the other blends he's come out with.
When Jake was in town, didn't he say like this is a cigar he smokes every single day when he's at the shop?
I don't recall.
Was it this one? I think it may have been.
I don't recall.
This would be a great daily smoker.
Because
It
we
is a
had
great daily smoker.
For the value.
So and with the pairing, I would definitely I kind of agree with Nate for the balling on a budget thing. It's a 9. I mean, this is something that again, and when I say 9, it's enjoyable. It's a good pairing because it kind of goes well together. It doesn't really contrast against each other, and at the same time, it's just an enjoyable combo. And this is something that you can have on the patio. You don't feel bad about dipping into the bottle. You don't feel bad about, in a sense, on a random night, grabbing the Edge Sumatra out of your humidor. And you dipped into a $20 bottle and you smoked a $7 to $8 cigar.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why I think it's a 9 right there. Because if this was a more expensive bottle or a more expensive cigar, I think that plays into it that you may be a little bit disappointed. But I mean, it really pairs well together. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
Ian says, go 2 weeks in a row without the use of the word budget or price point. Look forward to tuning into your podcast.
Well, we always have
no, I love you, bro.
As a review podcast, I mean, we have to mention price in there somewhere.
Yeah, Tony's out there pulling Sean around.
Sometimes you got to get to the point of the price.
Oh,
right.
Jesus.
With that being said, guys, part 1, I think I'm going to draw to a close here. Thanks to our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, for the Edge Sumatra from Rocky Patel, Altadis USA. We got the Romeo y Julieta Reserve on deck. The Edge Sumatra at Tinder Box at Easton will be 15% off if you mention Bourbon and BS Podcast now until next Wednesday. Also, BS Cigar Company. We got the silvers in, the golds are in the Robusto size. Hoping by the end of the month, we're going to have all 3 sizes in plentiful amounts.
Yes.
Woo.
And then also patreon.com/Bourbon BS Podcast. We got the 2 whiskey glasses. I like these whiskey glasses that we have from H. Upman from Altadis. This is something that instead of having like corksicle, which I think a lot of people have, where the cigar goes in the side of the glass, this has just 2 little cutouts on the rim of the glass.
They're a pain in the ass to get out of there.
Don't worry about.
Just kidding.
But this is something you actually rest the cigar on top of the glass. In a sense, this is too short now.
Like that. There.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. So stay tuned.
That's
but
nice.
yeah, patreon.com/Bourbon BS Podcast. And there's different ways you can contribute, whether it be monthly or a one-time donation. But reach out to us also if you have any questions on that. But we appreciate the support. As Ray was joking about, don't mention T-shirts. I have hopefully lined up something actually through the Bourbon and Blondes connection in St. Louis, where if you want to contribute to the podcast, I will order you a T-shirt, or possibly I'm working through the details, and I want it to be the same quality. And that's something that we can actually mention a little bit with the topic tonight, which is measured twice, cut once. Is that if I was going to make a T-shirt for the podcast, I want it to be a quality T-shirt. I don't want it to be a bullshit T-shirt that you guys are getting, So
yep.
That's something I want to make sure that's going to do well. That's been part of our process of finding a new printer. But that's something that if you want to just order a T-shirt, from what I understand, you can just go on the website and order a T-shirt, and then it'll be mailed to you. They wanted to wait on us to pre-order.
So a BS T-shirt, but not a bullshit T-shirt.
Absolutely. Guys, with that being said, cheers. Happy
Cheers.
Wednesday. Stay tuned for part 2 with Dustin and Nate and everyone else out there. Have a good week. All right, let's do this. I'm going to pull up that. He's stronger than he looks, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw around it, so.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Just wanted to check that out.
Yeah.
We had the head real quick.
All
Okay,
day.
cranking again.
About pulled you over, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah, I always put my it's on my wrist, then I hold it. Dude, he's strong. For 35 pounds, he's strong.
Grab some, Shannon.
All right, I'm gonna pull the Patreon here. Let's see, Freddie. Are you out there still, Freddie? Say yes, and then I'm gonna have you pick a number here because you haven't done it yet. Do you know Freddie?
He doesn't have to count. He just has to call out a number.
Yeah, Freddie's been in the shop before. No,
No, that's Jonathan Herring. No, Freddie's out in the Dayton area. Yeah, he's the one that's got a bunch.
He's very, very active on the community page.
He's got a bunch of those Wild Turkey Masters keeps. Yeah, he finds some good stuff out there. Freddie, number between 1 and like 20 something.
He's out there. All right, so I'm gonna do. See if I can switch up the order here.
Todd, I don't think you can get these on Home Shopping Network, the glasses. Yeah.
All right. All right. Yeah, go 1 through 21.
Yeah, when it comes to the half-gallon bottles, like the JTS Brown, the Heaven Hill White Label, that's in Ohio, and like Old Forester, those are the ones that like I'm always, not always, but it's like sometimes I just like, you know what, I want to get a inexpensive sipper. Just have
14, 14. He says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Clay Miller, who he won a while back.
I think he may have. I think we got something up there still for him.
No, he got it. He already got it. He should have already got it. Yeah, if you want to put Clay Miller on there. Clay has been a supporter of the podcast. This is how it works. He's been a supporter of the podcast. $5 tier since April of 2020. So he's been a supporter of the podcast for over a year. So Clay, thank you very much. Got some whiskey glasses, and shoot me a message, Clay. If this is, I can't remember what you won last time, but I know I had it at. He's somewhat local. He's not like in the area, but he came by the Tinder Box, I believe, and I gave him his prize there. All right, Tones, come here. You're gonna sit with me the rest of the podcast. Sit. Swear to God, he's a pissing machine.
Have you met Sean Hurley yet? Like in person?
I think so. Is he Cali?
Yeah.
I did on a Zoom call or on a group call.
Oh, okay.
Can't remember if I met him in person.
I'll be at the wedding. I just got
Fantastic.
confirmation. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Pretty stoked. 1 month from tomorrow.
All right, let's get started with part 2 here. Ian, Sean Anderson, you get a gold watch and t-shirt for 25 years. Johnson, so good to see you on the feed there. Ian is actually, I'm going to make it worth his while.
Yeah. Whatever the next t-shirt design is too, just.
No, the problem. So, Ian, remind me, you're 3X, and I don't think we ever got 3X because I got 2Xs inside, and he said that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Make it to watch.
Although, then again, and I'm saying this not to be mean, but just to be funny, Ian's been waiting for that shirt for so long that he could have cut down to a 2X.
All right. Jesus Christ. Thanks, Ian. With that being said,
Then there's that.
Shoulders too big.
All right.
BS baseball tee. All right. If I can actually line this up before we get started in that, that being said, Freddie Burt, also the BS baseball tees. If I don't have to pre-order a bunch and do that whole thing, if I can get this contact to be able to just have those available,
shirts on demand.
But to them too, they have to have those shirts available because they're not going to just do one-offs. Also, it's not cost effective, so we have to make sure that they have the styles in. And if I can actually do that, then it's game on at that point, because it sounds like a very good program. They're based out of St. Louis, so I can't do it in person, but I'm working on it. I know I've been saying that, but I'm working on it.
Had a lot going on lately.
Mm-hmm.
Busy schedule,
especially with everyone coming in town. I think Sean Anderson's coming in town as well. Stopping in here at least. I want to also throw out anyone listening out there, please share it, like it, review it on Facebook, on YouTube, subscribe, share to your family, friends, everything else. Also, how's that, Tony? Also, if you could, on the community page or to the Bourbon and BS podcast page, any topics that you guys are interested in, anything you guys want to do. If you're in the area, you want to be on the podcast, we can try to make it work. If you have any particular people in the industry you want me to reach out to get on this, whether it be the cigar industry, the whiskey industry, whatever it is, we're continuing. I mean, doing this every week, it's tough to line up guests every week for over 3 years. So this is something that I was talking to. I was trying to get the Camacho brand ambassador connection going. Got to reach out to him. We had Dan Burris, who's the Davidoff, Camacho, Avo, all that stuff. The rep was in today, so he's going to try to line me up with someone from Davidoff.
Nice,
awesome.
So we can do that. We can keep doing this.
I'm working on another cigar maker that we have some sample cigars from as well.
Okay, good. Let's do this. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. This is episode 173, part 2. This is where we go a little bit beyond the BS, and I'm still smoking the Edge Sumatra from part 1. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you check out part 1. If you're listening to the audio, just click back to 173.1. We smoked the Edge Sumatra. We were drinking and still drinking because there's so much of it. The JTS Brown from Heaven Hill. We reviewed that one as well. And this is something that it got favorable reviews. So if you're just tuning in, watch the video back a little bit ago, or check out the audio. And we appreciate all the downloads and everything else. It's growing and growing and growing, and I appreciate that. I'm excited to see where we go from here. So thank you very much. We had some great episodes recently, and I assume this is going to be much of the same in part 2 here. Tonight, having Dustin back in the garage and on the podcast panel here at the table.
Woo!
Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can I see the water for Tony's bowl over here in a little bit? He knocked over. He's drunk. He just hit Dustin in the head.
No, it was the bill of his hat.
It was my head. Don't let the
Did
bell
give him
fool you.
All right. You mind? Yeah. All right. So guys, tonight having Dustin back on, I kind of threw it at him a little bit. We had some other suggestions from people as well, and that might actually come into the mix as well. But we'll see how this topic goes, how far it goes, because I think it can go somewhere. But a big part of it is, so it's called Measure Twice, Cut Once. And Dustin, why did you want to talk about this on the podcast?
Well, I mean, when you reached out to me about topic ideas, and I was in the middle of one of my plentiful of projects at the house. I was in the middle of cutting down pallets to build patio furniture for the new concrete slab that was laid out. And I had been talking with one of my neighbors who'd kind of helped me with rebuilding my deck as far as like the engineering piece of it and measurements. And usually a second set of eyes is helpful because I was literally flying by the seat of my pants because I had never done anything like that before.
Metaphorically, but yeah,
pretty much. And
you weren't literally flying by it.
No, depending on who you're talking to, they might question it. But I know growing up, my grandfather and my granduncle were big into woodworking, and that was something my grandfather always said was measure twice, cut once. And my neighbor said it.
It's a very common saying.
It's a very common saying. Yeah.
Anyone who's ever worked in lumber. Yeah.
And just for some reason, it popped in my mind, and I threw it out there. And after I threw it out there, I kind of started thinking about it some more. And I was like, it's something in life that it's so commonly used or put out there.
Yeah.
But how often is it actually utilized outside of even woodworking or craftsmanship?
So that's what I'm asking.
I say it all the time at the cigar shop.
Yeah. And
you're cutting cigars, or
when we have someone who's new into cigars and they're getting a cutter and they're not sure like how to cut the cigar, I always talk to them like,
all right.
like I say, scalp it, don't decapitate it. I also say measure twice, cut once, because like you can always cut more off if you don't cut enough the first time.
Yeah.
But if you cut too much, you can't put it back on. So if you cut below the caps, that wrapper can start to come off, and that can ruin your smoking experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut too short, you can't draw well through it. Cool, you just cut a little bit further down. But it's better to not cut off enough than cut off too much.
Another way to look at it as well, which is something that my dad always taught me growing up with our lawn care business, is do it right or do it twice. Do it right the first time. You don't have to go back and do it over again. I can't tell you how many times I had to go back and do it over again, but
yeah,
I learned that quick. And it kind of was ingrained in me growing up that, and it's probably where my kind of perfectionist mindset comes from when it comes to like these little projects and things, that I want it to be right the first time. So it's going to take me a little bit longer probably to get it done, but I'm going to make sure that I'm measuring once, twice, 3 times at least, just to make sure that everything lines up. But I think in today's world, like there's so much that everyone is just go, that they're not taking that step back to reassure or re-verify, to make sure that maybe you're making that leap to something new. Are you just making that leap, or did you do your research? Did you check on, maybe it's a job change? Did you check to see if they had benefits? Do they have a 401k? Do they have, what's the pay like? Is it feasible for your budget? Like all of these things kind of factor into that measuring twice, cut once.
It's funny you say that. I have an interview tomorrow morning.
Hey, see, there you go. But that's, I guess, I threw it out there on a whim, just out of nowhere, because it was already in my mind, and going back into it a little bit more. Man, you get on me all the time.
Go on.
But like thinking about it even more, it's something that I think can relate to everyday life that not everyone really kind of puts that relationship to, in a sense.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Do you have a metaphor? I mean, that's what I'm asking. Like, is there more to it?
I think I don't know that there's actually just like a metaphor to it. I think it's just,
what is a metaphor for in life other than
lumber?
Lumber.
Like projects?
Yeah. Or do you have anything?
I don't. That's the thing. Like I don't.
Ray Cheshire out there saying there's many applications. So this is also another practical one. Reread that email before you hit send. Same difference.
Yeah.
So there's a decision process here.
Yeah.
That you're talking about that's very practical. Ian, not really sure. Ian Sean Anderson. I mostly see measure 7 times, cut long, check fit, and then cut again. I feel like it needs a new ruler.
Yeah.
Or just don't do it while you're drinking.
Or get a longer tape measure.
Todd Conley, I want to hear a little bit more. He says, I agree. It's universal to any situation. Freddie Bird. throws out there. I can't afford lumber. No one can. I get it.
I'm about to find out in the morning.
Yeah, not a good time to do a lumber project.
I've heard the prices are starting to go down though. So
that's what a salesman will tell you.
Yep.
Ian also says, let the words sit on your tongue before you launch them.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, right on the shoulder.
I have people at work that I bounce stuff off of, and they do the same thing. Like, if something comes up at work and we're pissed about it, like I'll sit there and I'll gripe to them because they're my friend. They're not my manager. I'll gripe to them and they'll gripe to me, and we'll just sit there and complain back and forth, and then just like, all right, now we got to deal with it. Now we can go get shit done.
I think Sean Hurley put it out there as that metaphor, prepare what you will say with someone before you call or meet with them, or research the reviews and ask around before you're a major purchase. Like I do that constantly. I'll be looking at something, for example, when I first got into cigars, I looked for probably 2 or 3 months for a humidor. Just as simple as something as that, like, because I wanted to make sure that whatever I got was going to have solid reviews. It was going to be something that was going to last, because I'm going to spend the money on, and I want to make sure that it's going to not just fulfill what I need it to do, but be of quality craftsmanship and manufacturing, and have a good lifespan on it too. And I still have it today. It's my one and only main humidor.
Nice. I think it goes into personality types as well, right? So we've talked about this on the podcast before, and I don't think this is where you wanted to take it necessarily, Dustin, but I don't know.
Open book.
What I think you were a part of some of the conversations about this. I don't know, like any more people in the new age corporations, like you don't have the DISC, you have like colors. Was that you that was part of that podcast?
I have color code as far as the personality test. That's what we use for
what
my
color
company.
Are you? Can I say that? No.
Yeah.
What color coded are you?
So I am a blue white. So I'm about 55% blue.
Say that. I don't think you say that in 2021.
35%, 25% white, I think is what it says, what it was. And then 9% or 10% each of red and yellow, which
I have no idea what that color.
So theoretically, simplest way to put it down is blues are very much people who they wear their heart on their sleeve. They're loyal. They are very much like people persons. They
hold your mic.
Yeah, I got it. They I don't want to say they work off emotion, but they build that emotional connection with people to build those relationships. The whites are people who are
Go ahead.
The whites are people who are kind of like the peacekeepers, but they also kind of keep to themselves, or the silent worker. They keep things kind of bottled up, and then after a while they can just kind of hit that boiling point where everything kind of like a pressure cooker. It hits that point and the top blows and all hell breaks loose. Basically, yellows are your very much extroverts, cheerleaders of the group, kind of like I don't say not necessarily always have to be the center of attention, but they're always that fun-filled, laughter-filled kind of person.
Right.
The reds are basically kind of what you would think, that hunger, goal-driven, goal setting, very competitive, do whatever it takes to win, will step on whoever they need to get to where they need to go, kind of like aggressive extroverts. So it's kind of like a weird spectrum. So like your yellow reds are kind of together as that extroverts, your blues whites are kind of that introvert, but they can still have kind of like extrovert tendencies in there too. And that's just part of that whole color code test, is part of like the management training program through Kroger. That's one of the courses. You go through the course, it explains everything, and then you end up taking the test at the end to kind of see where it's at. And they all base it around your childhood upbringing, and that's how they gather up your information based on your personality.
They already knew that?
No. So the questions that you answer through this, based on the questions are all based around your childhood and growing up and things like that,
Right.
versus more so now.
So I guess the reason I'm asking that is when you're looking at these whatever the situation is, I'm looking at it as I think there's a personality type, right, where you deal with this, where there are some personalities that are like, no, like they either eyeball it, they measure once and cut, or they overthink it to the point that they measure and measure and measure and measure, and they're afraid to take the cut because they feel like they're going to make the wrong decision. Nate's, they can't see your hand on the audio.
I didn't want to interrupt.
And there's the other personality type, and I'm going back to the old school. I'm sorry, I was messing with Tony a little bit here, like trying to make him not take over your mic. But it was I don't know what color coding it was, but I look at there's the other where there's one more where it's they may measure, they know what the right decision is, and then they ask someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Or like, what do you think? And then maybe they make the cut. I think that's where I'm looking at the metaphor. We've had a couple of these things. Ian says, we're all mutts mixed with all kinds and mostly situational driven. Jonathan Heron says Nate yawned, everyone drink. I don't think that was part of it.
I think at this point he's making up his own rules.
I think he's just drinking.
He's just making an excuse to get drunk.
He's just drinking. But I look at this as that, when you brought up this topic of measure twice, cut once, this is something that you can actually bring into a lot of things. It's like, do you just jump in feet first and you don't research it? If you have a job offer, you just do it. If you you just go with the gut. You're laughing
because
go ahead.
That hits home a little bit.
We'll go off of that.
No, because
no, that's good.
No, so
there's no right answer to this.
No,
That's what I'm saying. Like
no,
when you're doing like lumber, you're doing like actual carpentry. There are right answers to these things. That's called mathematics, and there are things
you can find some ways around it.
I mean, just
I wouldn't
banging
necessarily
with a hammer
trust
doesn't always work. I'm going to tell you that right now.
But no, we've talked about it
bigger
before. There was a point in my career where I was unhappy where I was, and the first opportunity that came along to do something I really was passionate about, I just jumped right at it. And I was like, oh, this is a lot, it's in the industry I want to work in. I think it's going to be more fun than what I'm doing now. It's going to pay me more than what I'm doing now. Sure, let's do it. Didn't work out. And then because of that, because I've had that experience where I just jumped in, now anytime a situation comes up in my career where I'm wanting to make a change or thinking about making a change, boy, do I spend a lot of time on it. To the point to where I'm nervous about actually making that jump.
Right.
Because it didn't work out the last time, so I'm nervous about doing it again. And I think sometimes that can happen to us in a lot of areas where if we don't measure twice in another area, like I'll give you another example. A couple of years ago, my wife and I needed to buy a car, and because the vehicles we had were having some issues, and so we needed something that we thought was going to be a little bit more reliable. And so we saw something, seemed like a really good deal. We bought that car, and then suddenly that car starts having problems again. So because of that, then when it came around this next time, or this most recent time to buy another car, like my wife was stalking cars for almost a year. She would, every time she found a car that she thought she liked, she was going online, reading reviews, reading maintenance histories, Carfax reports. Like she was going overboard almost. But it was
she has the tools these days.
Yeah.
You don't just go to the lot and kick the tires and take it for a test drive. Now you have all sorts of tools. You know how long it's been on the lot. Do a search for a particular model. You can.
Oh, some of the used cars they actually do tell you like how long they've been on the lot. What was the original price?
CarGurus.com will tell you how long it's been listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so my wife, before we purchased our most recent vehicle, I mean, we were saving up, but she was doing research all the time on different cars, and it's funny with what we ended up buying. Like, she had her mind set on a particular make and model of car, and it really didn't matter what year it was or how many miles. Like, she had her mind set on what kind of car she wanted, and she then went to go test drive one, and that one had actually gotten sold before she went there to test drive. So then she looked at something else that was in the same type of class, and then she comes back home and she starts doing research on that type of vehicle and just researches it extensively. And then finally, once we got to the point where we're like, yeah, we got the money, let's go. She test drove it. Then I went and test drove it, and I knew she wanted the car. I was more concerned because the last time I made a decision on a car, it didn't work out well. And I didn't want to have that burden again on me. So, part of me kind of pussied out, and I was like, yeah, whatever you want to do, honey. Like, but no, we had to make the decision together, because we're in it together. But yeah, I mean, so found the right car, right deal, and then, went ahead and did it. But when we did it, like, we felt more comfortable about that than we did the last time we bought a car.
Well, see,
like,
these are the more
we were much more cautious.
No, I think it's good. I mean, I think this is there's so many practical things. Let's go back to the industries that we actually really go into, right? It's the whiskey and cigars. You listen to a podcast such as this great one, or you go on a bunch of, internet sites, blogs, and all that stuff. And it's like, before you actually buy a bottle, what do? You look it up, you research it. Whose opinions are you taking?
You're taking the people in the industries and stuff. People who know what they're
These
doing.
are people that actually put out their own shit.
I actually don't do that when I go to buy cigars or
I'm
whiskey.
not talking.
Okay.
Let me for a second here.
Okay.
I look at it as that, like, when you go into a cigar shop, for example, you ask the person in there, like, what do you think of this? I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that, and all that stuff. You hem-haw around about buying a cigar. Huh? They're not asking Shannon. But no, I'm saying you have to have a trusted source, one, for that stuff. But you always can research this. You can do it. And then you're like, I've been looking at that bottle. I've been looking at the cigar, and I haven't bought it yet. I haven't smoked it yet. And you think, like, why don't I just pull the trigger? And I mean, I've researched it. And I've heard things about it, good and bad. I might as well smoke it. I think you can look at other practical things. Cars, I think, is a great example. That's great. I mean, you're absolutely right, Nate. I mean, this is something that you can research all the time now. But at some point, you just have to go with the knowledge, like, or you can keep researching it. But on the more, I guess, not abstract, but like something that where it gets into the more personal stuff, I saw some comments here, and I'm not trying to say anything in particular, but I look at it as, like, Nate, you were talking about your job, right? The career thing. You get burned by stuff, and you're a little more cautious and stuff like that. I've been that way with career. I've been that way with relationships, both romantic and friendships and otherwise. But Dustin, someone said, like your hat. You said 3 years ago today is when Kathy and I had our first major date. I don't know what major means, but which was a Kenny Chesney concert, and got this hat. 1 month from tomorrow will be our wedding day.
Yep.
You have been measuring twice and cutting second. Wait, measuring twice, cutting once with that relationship for the last 3 years, at least. You've known Kath a long time. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I guess I want to get it to the point. Let's actually talk about life a little bit with this stuff. And Dustin, with you being in front of the camera again tonight, is, you got this big, momentous event in your life coming up.
Yeah.
So when I asked you, like, you said, measure twice, cut once. I look at it as, this is something that you can learn from when you're dealing with relationships as well.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it wasn't 3 years ago, I went to a concert and I'm going to marry her in a month. So a little bit of measuring and cutting, I think, in the way this all panned out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to get to this point, to get to the final structure.
Yeah.
Because if you just go with it, there's a good chance that structure will fall.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep measuring and making sure everything is taken care of, and it's not just being selfish, it's about making sure that, you're happy, she's happy, you have other factors involved with family and your soon to be official, which I'm excited about, stepdaughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have so many moving parts and you're trying to build that patio or the pool you're talking about. I mean, like, I don't know how I can paint this more of an abstract metaphor here for your life, but it's like, it's not as easy as you went to a concert 3 years ago and then it's like, yeah, we're getting married.
Yeah.
Do you want to dive into this?
Oh, we can. Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of measuring when it comes to relationships, while yes, it is all leading up to this one big event. But at the same time, even after that day, it's still going to be a lot of measuring before cutting.
A lot of projects.
There's a lot of projects because relationships take a lot of work, period. There's a lot of give and take and there's a lot of giving. And those are the things that kind of go into that. You have to put in that time for that reward in a sense.
Okay.
And the reward is, you at least for me, I put in that time of work, to be able to have the things that I have and do the things that I do to provide the life for Kathy and Cadence that I can. And as much as it sucks, and this was one of the other topic ideas, was like work-life balance is, I don't get to see them a whole lot. So I try to cherish that time that I do have when I do come home. So like I'm putting all of that time to kind of keep measuring to provide all of that for them. Then when I come home, that's that final cut through the board to the final thing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
If you want to break it down to as fine-tuned as that, getting to come home, like even if it is, I'm closing at night and I don't get home till 10:30, 11 o'clock because it was a later night than what I anticipated. Cadence is already in bed and Kathy's already in bed and I come home, like at least I still know I get to come home to them. And that's enough joy for me knowing that I have them when I come home.
Yeah.
And, her and I joke, we're not technically married yet, but we've had countless people refer to me of her as my wife and me to her as her husband so many times that we just go with it at this point, and
it's fair.
Even over this past year when we get cards for one another, whether it be birthdays or anniversaries or Valentine's Day, we're getting the ones that say husband and wife on it anyways, and it doesn't even matter. And there's going to be a point where we're going to probably end up taking a page out of her parents' book where we both go to the card section, we pick out a card, we walk around the corner and we swap cards, and there's our card and we put it back on the shelf. Because let's be honest, $8 for a card is outrageous.
You don't have to get the ones that play like music and like have like, things that happening on them.
A regular card is still $7-8.
The handmade ones are where it's at.
Yes.
All right.
But
let's getting
back on
it. Spend spend money on cards that provide jobs for people.
Well, you end up throwing the cards away. So.
Wow, way to turn that one.
Jesus. They're calling off work anyways.
They can work remotely. I mean, that's what we did.
Anywho,
Ray Chester, you cheap bastard. Right?
Ray's calling me a cheap bastard, but we all know he's taking notes.
I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
but
he's not giving his wife cards. He's giving her cigars, probably.
Yeah,
and whiskey.
So, can you think of a scenario where you had to, again, let's get your topic: measure twice, cut once. I mean, was there a time where you had to? I feel like I'm like feeding this a little bit, where it's like you
my
had
proposal.
Okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to? What do you mean?
What? So, those of you, and Kyle Smith knows this very, very well because he was
Content Kyle for those.
Yeah,
don't know who he is.
Kyle B. Smith photo.
Right.
No. But he was the photographer for my proposal when I proposed to Kathy. To say it was elaborate is an
It's a
understatement.
scavenger hunt.
It was a scavenger hunt. Very
three rom-coms in one.
Yeah, it was a very detailed
So I
scavenger
describe
hunt.
it. And that's a positive thing. So you say elaborate, I say 3 rom-com movies in one.
Yeah. But it took a lot of detailed planning, reaching out to people, coordinating everything. I had a lot of help from friends and family of getting this all sorted out and set up. One of the stops was the Tinder Box. So Steve and Jake, when he was working there, helped me out with that a lot. But it kind of goes into it of all of this planning and steps and coordination of everything all led up to the final event, which was me dancing with her in the planetarium at Kosai under a star light show, with the final scene being the star setup of the night when I first messaged her, which initiated the entire thing, and where I finally proposed to her. And all of my family and all of her family were sitting up there watching the whole thing unfold, and she had no idea anyone was there because she couldn't see them. And it was one of those things. It was such a great feeling of accomplishment of everything kind of coming together. But at the same time, it was also a feeling of joy because I finally had it all planned out to ask the woman of my dreams to spend the rest of our lives together. I think that kind of coincides with all of that, but those things kind of happen on a daily basis. We're constantly measuring every day, planning every day of what do we have scheduled for this week? What do we got to do this day? What do we got to take care of? Whether it be, taking Cadence to dance rehearsals throughout the week. Kathy does a lot of that because I'm usually at work, but when I'm home, we all go together. But it's all of those measuring up to it to have all of those moments together that we can have.
When you were planning that day, did you know knowing Kath, did you know she's actually going to enjoy this? I think the whole scavenger
God, I
hunt
hope
going.
so.
She loves clues.
Okay, so you knew that about her.
Investigative stuff.
Yeah, so you knew she would enjoy that.
Yes,
I know my wife, and she'd been pissed off after the second stop. I'm done with this.
She loves scavenger hunts.
Victoria Box. My first husband asked me at a red light, needless to say, no photos.
That's where I got it from.
I'm assuming that was before the
as
red
long
light
as he,
cameras.
as long as he didn't run through the red light with a camera, and then there's a photo.
Wait,
somewhere.
Mom, was that in the? Was that
Ray Cheshire's response?
What car was that?
Efficient.
My mom needs to comment what car that was. Was that the Monza, the Chevy Monza that Dad had at the time?
She said yes.
But no, she loves scavenger hunts, clues, kind of figuring all these puzzles out.
No, obviously that's where I got it from because I proposed to my wife sitting on a couch. So,
Jesus Christ!
Oh, it was the Monza. I was right. It was the Chevy Monza.
Dustin, answer the question, please.
Yes, she did thoroughly enjoy it. At each stop, there was either one of our friends or a family member, and each location had some sort of relevance to either somewhere that her and I have been together or somewhere that's important to her or important to us. Some of these stops were, the first one was at the Cheesecake. It all happened at Easton. The first stop was the Cheesecake Factory, and I had my brother and his wife there with the first clue. And each stop had a little gift at each spot. So obviously, there's cheesecake at the first stop because that was the first place, we had dinner with my brother and his wife there. And that was the first time they met Cadence. And then the next stop was in Barnes and Noble in the kids section, in the kids book section, because every night Kathy would read books to Cadence before she went to bed. And it was something that was special to them. And so I had picked out a couple books that I knew she had been wanting to get for Cadence anyways. And then I also put in a book that was mine from when I was a kid that my mom had given me. And I had one of my good friends, Cedric, was there for that clue. The next clue sent them to the travel section in Barnes & Noble, where her sister and her husband were, which had a couple books on Chicago, because we went on a trip to Chicago with them for an Ed Sheeran concert. And in that, I had pictures on pages of a couple of the buildings that we had gone to that was relevant to us. One of which was what used to be the Sears Tower, is now the Willis Tower. And they have the big glass boxes that go out from the building.
Yeah, they got a tilt.
Yeah. I've got a picture of Kathy was all about going on it, but when we got to it, she didn't step foot on it. But then the next stop from there took her to the Tinder Box, because that's a place that I love to go. It's important to me, where some of my closest friends and friendships have been made. And then that clue took her to the Lego store with Legoland in it, in the middle of the mall, because, well, we all three love Legos, and Cadence has grown up being a big fan of Legos and Legoland. And then from there, it took her to Cooper's Hawk, where my parents were, with a bottle of wine, because Kathy loves wine and loves Cooper's Hawk. And then from there, I had set out a little kind of side mission, if you will. And one of my best friends was a chauffeur, and I had rented a nice car for it. He took her to my apartment, where I had rose petals put out, back to my room, which is where she thought I was, but I wasn't. Instead, I had 2 baskets laid out with 2 different outfits for her to pick out with accessories, because let's be honest, you can't just pick out an outfit for a woman. You got to have options. So, I learned that one quick. And then, so she did all of that, went back into the car, and I had sent a plethora of pictures and a few songs to one of my best friends, David, whose nickname is Moose. He's going to be one of the groomsmen in my wedding, who is the chauffeur. He created a YouTube montage reel of all of these pictures of all our memories for her to watch on the ride from my apartment to Kosai. And I wanted the final thing to be Cadence handing her the final clue. And all she had to say, and all she said was, "Go find Daddy." And that final clue said, "You'll find me waiting for you under the stars." And I was waiting for her in the planetarium.
So Ian was saying that every single guy that's out there right now listening to this is like, "Oh, dude, what the fuck? Like, come on!" Like, they're pissed off, and I'm like, "No, if their woman's watching." because if their woman's listening to this, they're like, "Oh, they're
taking notes right now."
Yeah.
Probably, but
like I said, you knew what Kath liked, so she enjoyed all the scavenger hunt and run around.
And that's the thing. Like when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do it and go about it, I asked her sister and I asked some of her friends, and took notes of things that she liked and things that she really enjoyed. And I still have the notes in my phone of everything, things that she likes. And I'm like listing everything as far down to like her favorite candy bars, and there's going to be whatever I can figure out to kind of tie all of this together, whether it be a stop or a clue or whatever. And that's how I just kind of put all of this together. And that's basically what I did. Was I just took all of those notes and elaborated a plan. The craziest thing about it was I had this idea of how I wanted it to work. And then all of a sudden, over the course of like 2.5 days, a switch flipped. I'm like, boom, this is it. And I just had everything just came to me.
All right. So you don't have the time to plan.
At the time, I was living by myself and
Right.
still working a lot.
So let's get back to now.
Yeah.
Do you have that kind of preparation for every life situation?
Not
You can
always.
Measure. I think
A
it was
million
like-
times.
Yeah, that was more than twice there.
It was, yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm asking, though, is that, is there something that a technique that you use in life when you have to bite your tongue? That's everyday life, right? With an individual, whether it be your soon-to-be wife or anyone else. I mean, then Nate chime in as well. And if you guys have this as well, Sean and Shannon out there, you guys have been happily married, happily 110% of the time. It's always happy to the moon. I'm not going to say who's giving a thumbs up and who's saying no. But my point is that there's times that you have to measure twice quicker. Like you have to, I look at biting your tongue as do you just fucking cut, or do you say, hang on a second, let me take a second look at this.
I think it depends on what it is you're.
Sean's kidding.
No, I think it depends on what.
Because I love the story, Dustin. I do.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's a matter of
this was 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're building.
I think it sums it up to one word: is patience. You have to have the patience to, like you said, hang on a second, let's figure this out. And you have to be able to take those steps. And will you always be able to do that? No, probably not.
Guarantee you won't.
But if both parties are willing to say, pump the brakes for a second, let's do even quick thinking or quick research or quick sort out, then that's what you end up having to do.
I feel like I just spun a merry-go-round here.
I'm
gonna go back outside.
I think it depends.
Let you guys handle it from here. They don't want to see me anyways, apparently.
If you're talking about something as significant as your proposal, that's something that you put a lot of effort and energy into because you wanted to make it special.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other stuff that goes on in a relationship, may not be as monumental and such a milestone that it doesn't necessarily need that much investigation, that much detail, and that much planning.
Right.
You don't need to sit there and look up reviews on 30 restaurants if you're going out to dinner on Friday night.
When they say, I don't care where we eat, you say, how about this? No,
I got
where do you want to eat?
There's a trick to that.
I don't care. Sean, what do you got? You grabbed that mic pretty goddamn quick.
Well, yeah, once you struck a nerve, then I had to respond. I think that
you had a good vacation with the family.
Yes.
Just a reminder.
Right. It is good. But the whole thing, measure twice, cut once, I think near the beginning of our relationship and as years progressed, it start out as fuck the measuring, cut once, and just figure it out later.
Right.
Now it's measure maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
Before I say certain things, and over time you learn. But it's it's the same thing as you apply it to what you're literally talking about. You learn from your mistakes, and over time, you get a better. And you'll know this when you get down further in relationship, Dustin, is you'll know what you can say that would potentially piss her off or set her off, that that I'm going to measure twice on this one.
I'm learning quick.
Okay. So, and you will learn. You think you got it down? Never think you got it down.
Oh, right.
They will throw you a fucking curveball.
Yep. So
just be prepared. That's my gift to you for your wedding. And then,
it's like not buying a card.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all. It
was her idea.
I think that's just part of life in general. Just with a lot of things, it's I've been in the industry a very long time in aviation. I mentioned before, but I've made a lot of mistakes by just kind of shooting from the hip or not measuring twice and then cutting, kind of, so to speak. And over time, you learn. And
hopefully, a plane didn't crash.
It did not. That
good.
Was
good.
It didn't.
Wow.
May have sent to the wrong airport, but it didn't crash.
Oh, God.
Charleston, West Virginia, and Charleston, South Carolina can be a little confusing at times. Anyway,
I think they're the same.
Both Charleston, both on the
letters
Yeah.
after the comma.
Eastern
Yeah,
time
so-
zone.
but so that's all I had to share. I just wanted to.
No, it's nice. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
No, the whole going out to dinner thing. Ask them hey, guess where we're going to eat, and whatever they say first, yep, that's it. You guessed it. That's where we're going. How about that?
My response, I usually get, where are we going? I was hoping you'd give me an answer, but
So early in me and my wife's relationship before we got married, I've always the type of dude that was like, I would Hulk smash and judo chop everything. I didn't ever measure, never thought anything about anything. I just I
broke boards with your forehead.
Yeah, I just reacted with
cut the tape
emotions.
measure.
And there was one day I came home and there was a note on the table. I opened up the note, I read it, and she was like pouring her heart out, like what was going on, what she was feeling. And she was sitting on the couch. I grabbed the note, I walked in and I threw it at her. I said,
"Good move."
I don't do notes. If you want to talk, talk. And I walked away. But I learned very quick that's not what you do.
You do notes now? How many notes do you write a week?
He owns stock
No,
and Post-its.
We had a great conversation after that, of course, but it was just like she didn't know how to like put her feelings out face to face with me. And I was a very direct kind of person. So now I know to sit patiently, listen, break out the ruler, the right angle, the protractor before I make an answer. You know, and I've taken that into my life
Graph
now.
paper.
How I approach things. I don't emotionally react anymore to
Well, I think that
situations.
I think in this situation we've had podcasts in the past, and I think of also like some of the topics that have come up over the last 3 years have been some of my personal relationships. Is that it's not always like I'm not saying it's always my fault, but I'm saying like there are times that it's not about like what you're saying, like it's you cut, right? You don't measure, but I can absolutely equate measuring twice to listening.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to get to that point where sometimes it's like you look at the situation at hand. It's not just about the fact that you just go off the handle or whatever. You just like headbutt the board and just Hulk smash, as you said. But I think there's times that measuring is in, I'll have to teach Dustin a little bit when he suggests a topic of where you can see the metaphors going with it. Cause he had a great one. He had like 3 other ones. And I'm like, measure twice, cut first, or measure twice, cut once. I'm like, there's so many metaphors in that. And I think a lot of that is, we'll get there.
I got caught up in a lot of projects.
I think, yeah. He's thinking I got a patio going in.
Yeah.
Got a pool.
I'm like trying to line up the post hole
wedding
digging.
going
I
on.
got to get the inspector out.
But I think that, like listening is a lot of that. I really think listening when it comes to the career, when it comes to like interacting with customers, when it comes to interacting with people that are friends with you, and also obviously significant others. I think this is like the measuring twice aspect of it is that you got to make sure that the rule stick is right because you're looking at it from your angle. And sometimes a second head or a second angle really does shed a little bit of light on the fact that they're like, oh no, I'm looking at it. I think of it like an umpire, right? In baseball, you got different umpires out there. For those that this is a sports metaphor, that you've got first base, second base, third base, and home umpire, right? In baseball, and everyone's got a different angle. And like if you hit a ball down the line, first base side, typically it's not the home plate umpire's call. That first base umpire positions himself so he can get a better and closer angle on if that is a fair or foul ball. And I think that is something that you have to look at is sometimes you have to listen to the other person involved that you can get a different opinion. It's not necessarily they're right or you're wrong or anything like that. You have to cut where they say you have to cut. But sometimes, like you're saying, like, like I don't do fucking notes. And you just like throwing it at her thing is at her, or like at the table, like.
Threw it on the couch.
You threw it, wait, say it again.
I just threw it on the couch.
Where she was sitting.
Yeah.
All right. So indirectly at her.
Yes.
It's a strong wind. Thankfully.
Nice light toss.
No, I just think that that's something that
Spiked
you have to, look at is that the whole measuring twice thing is it can be listening.
Mhm.
Well, I was thinking back to when we had that discussion with the Bourbon and Blondes about the active listening.
Right.
Like sometimes, the whole listening thing, it's like they just want you to help measure. They don't necessarily want you to cut. Listen, don't fix it. They're not necessarily coming to you airing out stuff
Right.
because
right.
they want you to fix the problem. maybe they just, want to run their blueprints by you, or, they want your opinion on the measurements.
Yeah.
Maybe they
but
just want
they're
you to
not
break the
necessarily
level
asking
out
you to
and-
build the damn thing.
So Ray says out there in relationships, you will sometimes find that even if you measure
Yeah.
twice before you cut, by the time you get it done, the measurement has changed. I think that's where you have to really be engaged in the fact that, this is the moment. And sometimes you do have to walk away and look at it again. Projects are the same way, right? You probably had
Yep.
that too, Dustin, with the literal projects that you had in the house, is that, you have to, like, you know what, let's look at it in the morning.
I actually did.
Let's look at it in the morning. Let's look at it tomorrow, because it's
Yep.
not like, it doesn't look right now. And I think I'm pulling up the right one here, is that I also like this aspect. This is like others. Hang on. The more folks get involved, the more measurements come into question. I think he means like more cooks in the kitchen type thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it as that, is that, the more people that are involved, you're going to lose a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a relationship, the two of you are supposed to be acting as a single unit, I think, in a lot of cases. So it's good to bounce things off one another because you're both trying to get to the same goal. You don't necessarily start bringing in both sets of parents and siblings and aunts and uncles, because then at that point there's too much shit.
Right. Well, like for example, like with all of the projects that I'm doing, a lot of these projects are things that either, she came up with, or things that, she was wanting done, or things that her and I had kind of talked about. But at the same time, like before we did anything with the patio, I had the guy come out and take a look at it. And, I talked with him as far as what I was thinking, or what her and I had kind of already talked about. And then we talked about a few other things. And then I pulled her out. I said, all right, baby, what do you think? This is what we've talked about. This is what we were thinking, so wide, so far out, bring it over to the step. What do you think about that? And, we went from there. And that's how we got to the point of where we're at. And even then, we ended up deciding on one piece.
Yeah.
But when he came out, we changed it up a little bit because we decided we wanted it to come out a little bit further to kind of make it all work out. And that kind of goes with everything else. The little deck landing that I'm putting on the side of the pool, it was something that she wanted. I came up with general measurements, measured it out in the yard as far as what it would look like. And then I brought her out and said, this is what I'm thinking. Is this what you're imagining? Because at the end of the day, she's the boss.
Drink.
I
So
got to pour a new one for that one.
I
You're welcome.
literally took a drink as he was saying that.
No, that doesn't count.
but like at the end of the day, I'm just kidding.
God.
You don't celebrate it. All right.
All of the
Jess, where you
projects,
at
like
tonight?
all of the projects
Nate's losing
have
the
been
game.
a joint venture with it all. And we've talked everything through. To your point, I measured a few times, cut once, actually a couple times, but I still cut wrong and had to go back and measure again. And that's, for example, it happened on the deck. I'm going to have to replace a couple boards because it didn't line up the way I wanted. And the more she sees it, the more it's not what she had envisioned. So it just needs fixed. And those are the things that we just kind of work through and talk through. And it bugged me because I spent all that time working on it. But at the same time, we both want it to look nice.
I want to
And
introduce.
we're both perfectionists.
I want to introduce something that you actually had already said, Dustin, is the patience side of it, right? So
Yeah.
Also, you need to prepare sometimes. It's not always spur of the moment, like a note left at Shannon's place years ago. 12, 13 years ago. Great hanging out with you guys and Bobby Hirschman. I saw the Philly come out in Shannon. And I'm not talking about Shannon Chapman, who you guys have met on the podcast. I'm talking about the Shannon Chapman you have not met on the podcast.
Yeah.
His wife, which I want to get on the podcast because her and Bobby Hirschman would be.
We have to
That's
have
one of the podcasts I just put them here, and I'm going to sit on the side as a moderator and just spin that merry-go-round.
no. What would be really funny is if we had Mrs. Shannon on the panel, And then Mr. Shannon had to sit back in the audience and watch and listen.
Never turn on that
And he's
microphone.
not allowed to touch the guest mic.
He'd be writing a lot of notes to give her later.
We got some extra paper and pens.
He'll bring Post-its.
Ah.
I don't normally do this, but I feel like I lost my train of thought about patience there.
Sorry.
I think I don't know if this is the direction you were going or not, Steve, but I think with
Probably.
patience, like I talked about earlier, like you have to have the patience, and this is something that I'm still learning to have, especially when it comes to things that I've done, because I do have so much pride in the projects that I do, and I want them to be right, that the criticism, when it comes, I get frustrated and pissed off because I spent all of that time to make it right, when in reality, she has her opinions and the ways that she wants things done and wants it to be done right and look nice. And I do too, but I have to be able to be patient, take a step back and listen, and still be able to make those corrections based on the criticism and roll with it.
Well, why not? All right, here's one for you. So with like the patio and stuff that you're doing, why not just sit there and be like, you know what? I want to put a patio out in the yard. I'm going to do all the research. I'm going to do all the measuring. I'm going to hire someone to come out and do it or do it myself. I'm just going to build what I want. Why not do that?
Are you talking about me?
Because both of our names
that's
are
true. You put a patio on too last year, Steve. Yeah,
I
How about-
did, and it wasn't just like that, but I was just kind of joking. I mean, it was there were parts of it, we've talked about that. There's parts of the patio that were there because of my former relationship. You know, like the wall and everything else, is that I did a lot of those things. But I will say is that sometimes that you do actually do things right and you think that it's the right move. And, you know, you come out of it with a good patio, but you don't want to be in a rush about it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, it kind of brought it back full circle for me. You want to give yourself enough time to plan. Sometimes if it's not a spur of the moment, that's where I was going with that, with the Shannon, where you guys all jumped on that, which rightfully so, because I think it's hilarious. But if you put yourself up against the gun when you're doing a project, right? I look at it as like if you're building chairs for like, I got people coming over, right? I'm like, I'm going to build the chairs for this. But I don't have enough time. I don't give myself enough time. So I don't give myself the amount of time to really carefully look at it detailed in that sense where I really have time to do that. What I will say is, and going down the metaphor role, is that there are sometimes you may have to, for the time being, shit hits a fan, you're sitting in a little bit of a cockeyed chair. There's four legs to it, and one's a little bit shorter. You can still enjoy the moment and realize the mistakes you made, and you can go back and fix it. It's not always a life or death situation. Like sometimes you can laugh at it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I did measure twice, but I was still in a fucking hurry. And I appreciate, and if anyone's watching on camera, it's like you guys all sit there. You're like, no, I think this is fine. This is fine. We're all good. We're all good here.
I think you bring up
And
the
hopefully by the next time you have it all figured out. It wasn't supposed to be a rocking chair, no, Shannon, but it rocks a little bit, and there's not enough coasters to fit.
I think you bring up an interesting segue in it is you can go back later, you can fix the chair. You don't throw the chair in the fire or smash it against the wall.
I'm saying it's not always a lost cause, right?
Same thing with a relationship. If there's something, that's
can
a
make
little
mistakes.
Yeah. Just because you make a mistake in the relationship doesn't mean that has to be the end of the relationship. Now, obviously, there are some mistakes that are worse than others. Like if you're building a chair and you forget 2 legs, that's going to be a problem. But just because there's a mistake doesn't mean that's the end of it. Whether it's your job, a relationship.
That's kind of my point, yeah. No. Dustin, what do you got, man?
That's something
flowing right now.
That's something I struggle with.
Which part?
What Nate was talking about. So when you make mistakes, no, it's not the end of it. For me, and it's something I've struggled with over the years, especially over the past
Getting
few
past
years. Well, just so based on my past experiences, I still let things bother me when I make mistakes. I'm my own worst critic. That when others criticize me, I take things personally. At times, especially when it comes from Kathy. And I know it's just a matter of she's trying to criticize to make me better and to make better decisions, maybe think things through a little bit more, or, things of that nature. But for me, when I make a mistake, I always assume the worst. So, Nate, when you say no, when you make a mistake, that doesn't mean it's over. Based on my experiences, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, because that's my biggest fear.
Which part?
Is that I'm going to make a mistake that's going to ruin it all. And so when I do make a mistake, even if it is just something little, it's still always a fear that's in my head that gets the better of me because I'm my own worst enemy.
Having that fear, do you think sometimes that cripples you from
Yes.
doing something or making a change?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm being completely honest, because it's been such a struggle that it just eats away at me inside. And it's made it really difficult. So when it comes to talking things out and like getting through things, I'll go back and get defensive when I don't need to be. And I really shouldn't be, because let's be honest, I'm in the wrong because I made a mistake.
It depends what the mistake is.
Correct.
And I will say,
correct.
The Bourbon and Blondes actually had another topic suggestion that I want to throw in here. We don't
Funny how that tied in a little bit.
I was going to say, we don't want to dive into it completely, but how do you handle being uncomfortable? How do you handle it? Are you forgiving, or are you your own advocate? Shannon, so I wish we need to get a live feed camera on top of this, so like they can see, and anyone in the area join the crowd in the garage, because it's always funny when I love, and I feel like some people at their iPhones or Androids or iPads that are watching this, that they hear something said, and I absolutely love the live aspect of this podcast, is that what you guys didn't see is that as they were talking, Shannon stands up, grabs the mic. I can see the wheels turning.
If that mic was further than 3
And I
feet
didn't know if
away,
it was
he'd
smoke
run.
from the cigar or smoke from his ears. But I just want to throw that out there. But Shannon, please.
From the
Bourbon and Blondes. How do you handle being uncomfortable? Because Dustin, you were kind of touching on that, I think.
Being
you
his own
made a
worst critic.
mistake. You're your biggest critic. So how do you handle being uncomfortable? How are you handling it? Are you forgiving? And are you your own advocate? This is followed up by also, I got wasted. I have to do stuff tonight. 2 peas in a pod. It's Bourbon BS podcast and Bourbon and Blondes. Do you want to comment on that? You got talking to the mic.
Or what was you going to comment on before?
Or yeah.
Well, I was going to say earlier, you were talking about how you would make a mistake and kind of like revel in it a little bit. Are you scared to make a mistake?
Yeah.
So you measure many times.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
know.
same thing, kind of like.
Yeah.
Go.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, sometimes in the mistakes come the answer. So I kind of lived in that realm for a long time in my life, early in my life, teens and 20s, about afraid to make the mistake because you don't want to disappoint, let somebody down, or like look like a fool. And a lot of opportunities passed me by because I was too scared to make a mistake. And I've really learned in my life, it's okay to make that mistake. I don't try to revel in it anymore. I don't sit in it. I don't dwell on it too long. We all dwell on it, but there comes a point where you got to suck it up, take the mistake, take the slap, keep it moving.
Yeah.
I've talked
Making a
about
mistake is different than going into a situation knowing that it may be wrong.
Yeah. I kind of relate to what Shan was saying because of the previous job, career that I chose to go into. That particular failure has prevented me from going back into it or being cautious to a fault. Because then I was like, all right, I'm happier now than what I was, say 8 years ago before I made that change. But because that leap didn't work out and I fell flat on my face and the consequences of that, I don't want to do that again. So I am very hesitant about making not just the leap back into that industry, but to any other industry that I'm not in now.
So in 2016, I was actually going to
Turn them up a little bit, will you?
check.
No, you're good.
Okay.
The two of you talk at such different levels,
Oh, okay.
but trust me, that mic picks up better.
2016 was when I was actually going to attempt to get my barber's license, but I was too afraid to take that leap of leaving a life I already had.
Yeah.
And I watched that mistake eat me up for the next 2.5 years. When I finally learned, like, the life I'm leaving now is not where I want to be, or it's not going to take me where I want to go with myself and my family. So that's when 2019 I finally jumped back in and got my license and all that good stuff. But I sat in that mistake for a long time. I let it eat me up and like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough.
What was the mistake though?
Not going after it. I let a roadblock stop me.
So I think you're measuring too many times. Going back to
Yeah.
what we were talking about with the topic.
I was measuring all the wrong things.
You kept measuring.
Right.
Never, like you're like, this makes sense, and then you never took the cut.
I never took the cut because, like, what if the cut is wrong? What if it's
You were measuring so much external, you forgot to include the internal.
absolutely
Well, life is different than like the mathematics of like we were talking about carpentry and projects and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? Like, you have to make this cut, you have to make this angle, whatever it might be. I'm clearly not an expert on any of this stuff, like carpentry or life, but my point is that sometimes the fear of the unknown
All mine
is
were
the
the
fear
what
of
ifs.
making a mistake
Yeah.
in a project, and now all of a sudden you're like, well, why don't I just pay someone to do it? Because
Right.
I know you have this, like, all of a sudden anxiety turns into doubt, and all of a sudden this turns into like this whole thing where you know, with you and the barber decision, you lost time. It wasn't all bad time.
no.
There were positive things there.
A lot of positives did come from it, but I sat there, I'd measure and I'd go to cut, and I'm like, well, what if? What if I leave this career that I've built, and this career is bunk, and it's not everything I thought? Maybe I don't really love it as much as I think I do.
I think that's one of the most debilitating questions we can ever ask any of ourselves.
Side note, you need to start a blog or something else about measure twice, cut once, because of the barber thing, cutting hair and all that stuff. Like, I just, like, you know, the t-shirt or something like pamphlet.
Hey,
like,
there you
like
go.
like a trifold, like, you know, at
Right.
your chair.
I think my point
Why
is
should you go with the traveling barber?
Barbers and bourbon.
Oh, no, come on. Don't do it on Wednesday nights, all right? Jeez. You better be in the audience.
I think my issue is not necessarily when it comes to like the mistakes. It's so much in regards to what you're saying, Shannon. It's more or less making the mistake because I'm not measuring enough. Maybe speaking without thinking. That's typically the one that's gotten me, I guess, in trouble, if you will, the most. It'll be out of frustration or irritation or something like that. And of course, you know, there's many other underlining factors that go along with it. You know, long day at work. I come home, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated. I don't feel like having more conversations with people because that's all I've done all day. But I know that's the only adult interaction that Kathy's going to have for that day. Or maybe, you know, it's just exhausted and just tired in general. And like probably many other people out there, when you get tired, your fuse gets a lot shorter.
You make rash decisions.
And that right there is where it's kind of, I guess, come back to bite me in the ass. Is I'll make the decision before measuring, or I'll say the words without thinking, or it'll come out and not the right tone, and then it comes back to bite me.
Just keep that mic between you guys.
No, I actually no, put it back, because I actually really love the fact that, so like what Dustin was just saying, again, if you guys can't see the garage, unfortunately, but like Sean got up. The audience
Quick, fast, and a hurry.
Tony's sleeping, but before he was getting up in some of the comments, and we
Yeah.
just won't give him the mic. He's obscene and just
You know,
takes after his owner.
I was gonna say that.
Go fuck yourself.
Learn that from his
So-
dad.
So with you, Dustin, and
like father, like son.
in response to what you were just saying, though, I was in the same boat for years where I'd be burnt out from work, stressed, overloaded, and I come home and I had to deal with that, whether it's the kids or either daughter or my wife or whatever. And it's just blah, blah, blah. And I established some like just almost like I wouldn't say ground rules, but it kind of sounds too like ground rules. No, it's more like do me a favor. When I get home, give me 10 minutes to
Just
decompress.
request.
Yeah, request.
That's it.
Give me 10 minutes to go into my room and to decompress from my day, or 15 minutes or whatever, you just ahead of time. That way you're not walking into something where they're going to start jumping on you and you fire off of the, shoot from the hip and piss them off. It's like, if they know, if you communicate with them, your wife and your daughter, how stressed you are each day,
That's so huge.
just
I
let them
hope
know,
you're
hey
listening
man,
to this.
give me 15 minutes when I walk in the door, I'll say hi, but give me 15 minutes just to decompress. And I'll tell you what, man, that 15 minutes just to give yourself some peace and quiet it's going to turn everything around. So just learning from experience for many of years doing this, that's one thing I could just offer to you, because I think it's going to help you and it's going to help your relationship between the both of you.
Well, it's like if someone comes up to you and like, hey, I want you to build me a chair and I want it tomorrow. Like, oh shit, okay, I can do it. It may not work out well. It may not turn out to be what you want. If you give me time to do what I need to do a good job, then I can, make something that's going to be satisfactory to you. Same thing with what you were talking about. If you give me some time to just get my head on straight, collect my thoughts instead of just blurting out the first thing that comes to my mind, because how many times has that been the right answer?
Yeah.
Like, let me think about it. Let me sleep on it.
All the time.
No.
Oh.
No, I know you're being facetious. But let me collect my thoughts. Let me get in the correct set of mind, and I will get you the answer.
Do you think your fiance...
Hey, come on. Remember the rules.
Sorry. Do you think that's something your family would do?
I think probably so. I think the issue that I run into is the fact that by the time I do finally get off work, I have a 40-minute drive each way. So I'm already sometimes driving home with the radio off. Like, it's just silence.
But
Like,
you're
because I
driving,
have
you're
to-
still distracted.
So
I
yes,
am.
I threw it up there that Jonathan Aaron said that's why every person, in my opinion, needs at least a 30-minute commute that has a family. And
Even so,
I agree with
the
that
drive,
to a point.
the drive though, what if someone cuts you off? Someone pisses you off?
You
You gotta-
carry that in.
No
home.
shit. So fuck the drive. I understand that helps, but
All right.
get to yourself a quiet place where there's nothing you were doing but just sitting and being present for 15 minutes.
Did you have to have that every day?
Yeah, once it finally realized, it came to that point where every day I was like that, and my wife was like, shit's got to change. I'm like, all right, I got an idea.
Did you do it in the morning or just in the evening?
In the evening, morning I was okay because I was kind of up and fresh and ready.
Okay.
But in the evening when I came home, it was so mentally and exhausting because you're constantly just dealing with so much stress with just the shit I had to deal with, plus having a micromanaging CEO on top of you. I was ready to fucking kill everybody. So, but to give me that chance to come home and just go out in your backyard or somewhere, where there's peace and quiet for that time. And man, when they honored that, it really improved our relationship and it improved my quality of life with them.
This isn't really on the topic as far as like measuring twice and cutting once, but I mean,
Right.
I've experienced that, and I've
It's a
talked
way to
many of
measure.
you. It is. I think that and I think that we're getting back to normal on a lot of this stuff. So a lot of these like everyday situations should come back, and you need to have best practices.
Yep.
I know that in my personal history of this last year, 2020, is that I live so close. You guys know that are familiar with my life situation, where I work and where I live, and everything that's happened over the last year. That happened all the time. Is I had nowhere to go because I was in a relationship with someone that worked very close proximity, lived with them, and then that's like I would deal with all this stuff and then come home and be like, where am I gonna go at that point? Because I think this is a very valid point. There are some days, I don't think it should be every day. Some days you should be able to come home and your significant other, or if you're the first one home, you should be that significant other that is that supportive person, is that how was your day? And just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. Give them the half hour of this euphoric situation, right? Like, this is your paradise. There's an understanding that you are sharing this with someone that you just, and then after you've had a little bit of time together, maybe had dinner, and then it's like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, hey, you said you were going to do this. And I think maybe that's part of it. You come home and you're in this mode, Sean.
Yeah.
And sometimes you come home and you love your wife, you love your child, but they just, as soon as you walk in the door, there's got to be mutual respect.
Yep.
You don't always have to be like, hey, I'll be over here. I'll be in my room.
No, it's not to be like that. Just say like it'll be one of those, because there's some days I'm sure you're gonna come home and you're not gonna be. There's days where you may not be as overwhelmed or stressed, but those days where you walk in the door and you're dreading walking the door, knowing that when you open that door you could get bombarded with 50 different questions the minute you walk in, those are the days you really need to take that time. And it's nothing over the top that you have to go meditate or anything. It's just collecting your
I don't
thoughts.
think meditating is over the top, honestly. I think that there was
I'm not saying you have to.
There was a time, and I think it still happens. It's going to happen again now. Is that someone that is in a high stress situation, right? High stress job, that instead of going home, they go to a bar, they go to a cigar shop, they have this negotiation in a sense that they're doing that. And sometimes they lie about it, but I got to say that you need to be able to have that moment where you go into the situation that there's an agreement there that the first half hour that everyone gets together, everyone's at home, you don't dial in, you don't go after someone.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, who's on the mic, he's been a part of the podcast. I don't have that experience with children. That's a different, like that's me and my dog,
Sure.
Jonathan Herring. That's me and Tony drinking.
Yeah.
But there are some days that I want to come home and just crash. But I
Sure.
also realize that there are two living beings there that he's been crashing all day long. So you put yourself out there for that. But I think if you have a wife and kids and all that stuff, is that I know it's oversimplifying it, but at some point to have that true peace, you have to have that without avoiding those people.
I agree.
And I'm not saying that's what you were doing every day.
I'm
But
not.
sometimes you have to be like, hey, I love the old school thing where, and not everyone agrees with this, but I think there's an old school thing about it. It's like, dad's coming home. It's not just my life, and it wasn't always my life actually, but I was watching a show that I really like, that this 70s dads comes home, and the mom and the kids, who the mom was also working, but it's like, dad's coming home, he's really stressed, just don't talk to him about your report cards, don't talk to him about this and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let him have his dinner and then we'll talk to him.
Yeah.
It was a comedy, which I thought was hilarious because it backfires, right? That's what makes it funny
Right.
when it's not you. But I think there's something,
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
there's
shit.
something there that's just literally like, just let's everyone come together again. And it's so simplified. Let's break bread. Let's have dinner. Let's just relax. And now we'll handle the shit.
Yeah. And it goes both ways too. Like if I come home and my wife is stressed with, the animals, or we have all these fucking animals that we love, but they're a lot of
kids
work.
or the dogs? Cats.
Kids and dogs and whatever, and cats and rats. And all, anyway,
Goddamn animals.
fucking zoo. So
F-bombs. We're already being commented about that.
really?
Not by it. Yeah.
Did-
Yeah, we are. I am.
Okay, sorry. I won't say the F bomb then.
What
Did
won't
you say not that? No, I'm just saying.
I'm kidding, man.
Okay, I'm just saying though, is there's times where I come home and my wife's ready to lose her shit. And that's where I'm like, all right, drop what you're doing. I'll take over. You get out of the house for 10 minutes. You go take a walk or do whatever. So it goes both ways. So I don't know, Dustin, in your situation, if your wife's ever like that too, where you can come home and give her some, relieve her of something really quick, and you can let her do 10 minutes, you do 10 minutes, whatever. But I think that's going to help, man. I really do, just from years of experience.
I think maybe the next time we get you on the podcast, Sean, would be a good, like, how you're talking about how you need time to, like, decompress and get your head on straight, like how that's changed over the last year with your job change.
Yeah, I don't need it.
You don't need to. Okay, yeah, don't need to, because you're not dealing with as much stress or bullshit at your current job as you were before. So you're already in a better mindset when you get home. So that change had a huge impact on it.
I want to say Bobby Hirschman is chiming in, and thanks, Bobby, for tuning back in. And we're going to get you on the podcast when you come back into town. But he says, I adore my kids and they adore me, and they and my wife respect me and my work, and they totally realize I work my balls off 24/7 for them, but enjoy and love my friends. And I think that's a great point to you, Dustin.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And
You're working your balls off.
and that's the thing. Like, I do work my ass off for them.
You said balls.
Ass, balls, potato. Yeah.
You have to celebrate it.
I think the thing that I run into also is just that
Bobby said balls drink. I don't think that was part of
No,
the
I have the list.
There's so many rules.
again.
Jonathan
Jonathan is making rules
Jonathan,
for
you can
himself to
revise
drink.
those.
I'm pretty sure if Jonathan was actually playing the game the way he came up with it, he'd already been passed out by now.
He's making up new rules.
I think, like, for me, I love being able to have time with my family. And because of the fact that I don't get to have a lot of that when I am at work, it makes it difficult, because when I do come home, I want to be able to have that as much time with them as I can, because I haven't been able to see them. By the time I do get home, and 9 times out of 10, I'm picking up dinner on my way home. And so it's, 7:00 before I get home at the earliest. And we sit down, we settle down. Kathy and I will talk for a little bit. She tells me about her day, and I'll tell her about mine. And, we kind of get that out. By the time we sit down to eat, it's, 8:00. We finish eating, kind of relax for a moment if we're lucky. And then we turn around, it's, time to get ready for bed and get up, especially during the school year. We've kind of lucked out this week because I've been off. And with Cadence being out of school, so, we're not having to rush to bed as often. On the flip side, I still do have to get up early sometimes for work, but that time is still minimized even when I'm at work. And not having but maybe one day off a week, when I do get that one day off, it's, maybe I got to mow the lawn if it's nice out, or maybe do a few other little things here, or maybe we do actually get to have a moment together that we can go do something. And it kind of plays into a little bit of some of the things that, like, Kathy deals with is, growing up for herself. It was a lot of, she doesn't like the fact of, like, being alone. because she had a lot of that growing up. So it's been kind of like ingrained in her, that whole kind of like fear, because, you know, her older sister would be in charge of watching her while her parents are at work, or her sister would just disappear, nowhere to be found, you know. And Cadence or Kathy's, you know, 6, 7, 8 years old, Cadence's age, and is just kind of left like trying to find her sister, nowhere to be found. And so she kind of has had that ingrained in her through, you know, over the years. And now that, you know, she has a family and we're together, it's kind of trickled back in a little bit, and it's gotten better. But there still is those moments where she, just as much as me, if not more so, loves having us all together as a unit and being able to spend time together, you know, maybe play games with Cadence or something, or watch a movie. And, you know, because we don't get to have a lot of those times to do that, it makes it difficult. So when I am home, it's try to cram as much time in there together as we can. And so it does kind of add to that stress. And, you know, Sean, to your point, I think it is a great idea to try to like introduce that, of like maybe 10 minutes of kind of some sort of decompression, if you will, to make it a little bit easier to leave it at the door. Because you can say leave it at the door when you walk in at home or when you walk into work, but let's be honest, we all know it's more difficult, easier said than done.
And I would just maybe present her with that.
All right. You know the rules. God damn it. If you're going to be in the audience, you're going to talk. You got to talk to the mic.
Sorry, Steve.
Should be.
Okay. I'm not.
Apologize to them.
I'm sorry, everyone. Did you mute me?
No,
Okay.
you're good. You were just holding it so close, you were
should,
blowing
though.
out the
There's
channel.
a penalty.
All right. I'm sorry. So that should be a new drink thing. Okay. Okay. John, you heard me.
Drink. Cheers.
Dustin, but I think one thing,
Getting
I think
tired.
if you do approach her with that, is just to make sure that, you know, give her as much heads up as possible that you're presenting this option to her. This, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, so just give it a couple days and then try, you know, whatever. Don't just
No, pick the right day.
right. Yeah. So anyway, sorry again, everyone.
You drinking? Next night off, you have to drink a lot. Yes, hold yourself accountable.
So someone at the shop
You
wanted
can't walk home even.
someone at the shop was
We'll
actually
Uber
going
you
to
home.
someone at
2
the shop was going to make a meme about the Bourbon and BS podcast drinking game, where it's like, I'm going to do the drinking game. 7 minutes later, they're passed out on their table.
All right. Closing remarks.
So we start at 8 and work our way across.
Well,
You don't
you're
have
the
to start.
guest.
I know I'm the guest, and the guest is picking.
All right,
to
that's
right.
fair.
I'm just-
All right, that's fair. That's fair. All right, closing remarks on part 2. Measure twice, cut once. Great conversation. Nate, what do you got? You got your notepad. I know that.
I do.
I'm more.
I think the cost of the product a lot of times determines how much measuring we do.
Lumber's expensive.
I'm not just talking about lumber. Like,
Jonathan Ariel says if closing remarks go past 11 minutes, everyone has to finish their drink.
for fuck's sake.
All right,
Are we
so
talking
as a
everyone
group
or just Steve?
just me? I'm the shortest one last couple weeks, last couple months.
So just Nate.
I'm the
Okay,
last
got
one.
it.
You guys talk forever, and then you interrupt me. Nate, go ahead.
So earlier, Steve, you'd brought up like looking up cigar reviews before you buy a cigar, looking up whiskey reviews before you buy a bottle. I don't do that, because if I'm going to buy a $10 to $15 cigar, that's such a small cost. Like, I'm willing to give it a try, and if it's not good, all right, it's you know, I'm not out that much. With a bottle of whiskey, you know, like the JTS Brown being $19, you know, that to $50, like, if it's not a good bottle, I'm not out all that much. I'll probably still drink it, but I'm not out all that much. Something like a relationship, on the other hand, like if I don't do all the measuring needed to, you know, make that relationship work, that's a little bit more expensive of a mistake. Same thing with buying a car without doing research, or buying a house without doing research. You know, sometimes the whole measuring thing, it's like how valuable it is to you, I think determines how much research information you look up. How important it is has a huge impact. And sometimes just because you cut and it's not exactly the right fit, you need to have the right tool for the job. If it doesn't fit quite right, that doesn't mean you need to get the saw back out and lop off another chunk of wood. Sometimes you may just need a little bit of sandpaper. Just need to just finish out the edges and just take a little bit of edge off, and then everything will fit just right.
Just take a little off.
Like
the top.
if I've built a lot of things with lumber in my time.
Literally or metaphorically?
Literally.
Okay.
Like when I was in high school, when I was always in shop class, but the years I didn't have shop class, but I had study hall, I would use my study hall to go to shop class, and I would build gifts for other people. And the people that I gave those to, for the most part, still have them. My mom still has 2 of the little coffee tables that I built for her. My dad and my uncle still have the gun racks that I built for them. But when I was building that, I had my schematics, I had my blueprints, I had my measurements. I used the tools needed to cut those the way I thought they needed to be fixed. But if a piece didn't quite fit right, if it was just a little bit too long, I didn't throw that piece out and try and get another one. I just sanded it down a little bit to where it measured and it fit the way it was supposed to fit.
Yeah.
Kind of what I was going back to earlier. Just because you make a little bit mistake, just because something doesn't quite fit exactly right, doesn't mean you need to scrap the whole project. You just need to fix that one little area, and then that'll make everything come together. And then once it all comes together, it'll function the way it's supposed to.
Ooh. Does it? Dustin. There's a clock going for drinking game.
What Nate said.
Bullshit.
Nah, get the fuck out of here.
No, I think tonight's conversation was really, really good. It helped me out a lot, I know, and I don't know if it helped anyone else out there, but I appreciate everyone's input and interaction with the conversation. Everyone's points were fantastic. Everyone here is, we're all constantly growing. We're all constantly evolving. We're all constantly changing. It was just really great. So thank you for that. I think for me, it's a matter of just kind of taking those things in stride. To Shannon's point earlier of maybe getting over that fear of making a mistake is probably for me going to be one of the bigger things. To be able to measure, maybe, think before speaking a lot of times, take a deep breath when I am frustrated or, maybe have a lot on my mind and stressed about stuff. Not letting work get the better of me, which is something that I've struggled with over the past, probably even a few years, to be honest with you.
Your life. Go ahead.
Yeah, or just life in
Your
general.
entire life.
Yeah. And like I've even had, DM say, not put all the monkeys on my back, even though where I'm at, I have to carry all the monkeys because I'm the one getting the job done. I think that just kind of goes hand in hand with everyday life too. You can't put all of the monkeys on your back when it comes to a relationship either. There's 2 parts to that. And that's something that I have to keep in mind as well. When I have decisions that need to be made, or, maybe Kathy has decisions that need to be made and, she wants to talk it out, I need to be able to actively listen and be present with that. And that's something that I've not really been able to do for her because of the fact of having so much on my mind and stressed about work or, maybe this, that, and the other. And so it's gotten in the way, and that's not fair to her, and it's not fair to myself either. Because at that point, I'm setting us up for failure. But I think at the end of the day, it just kind of all funnels back around to
fucking Dustin being back on the podcast.
Yeah, well,
You gotta
it'll probably be the last time for a while. I think
not true. People enjoy it. You've been on the podcast in the drinking
I think.
game.
Hey, I push people for a good time. It all funnels back to that whole mantra of measure twice, cut once. Don't be so quick to make that cut. Make sure that it's the right one. Make sure it's the right move. Make sure that it's the right thing to say. Make sure everything is kind of lined up. But at the same time, don't take it so far as to overthink things. I think that's something we didn't necessarily talk about, but that whole overthinking things can lead down other rabbit holes. Overmeasuring can lead down other rabbit holes to lead to other mistakes. That's where I'll leave it.
If you're measuring too many times, you might be hesitant, and there might be other reasons for that.
Yeah.
I will also say that sometimes I think that you not everything fits together the right way based on the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you guys put together something and there's extra screws?
They're just
What was that,
extra
Shannon?
parts in case you might lose
That
them.
makes me so nervous. Like, did they actually give me extra screws, or did I fuck
They
up?
never say if they gave you extra screws.
No, they don't.
But how many times? All right, so anyone that's on a mic right now, Dustin or Nate, how many times do you put together something that someone else actually gave you to fabricate, in a sense, that you put together based on their fabrication, that you ended up with a bag of screws? Or you take something apart, you put it back together.
You're missing a piece.
This is your doing. It was actually a piece that was solid. You take it together, you move it, and then all of a sudden you put it back together, and you're like, I know how I've got 3 extra screws. Does this happen?
No.
Dustin? Has it happened?
No.
Never.
Now, things that like I buy brand new and there's like a few
So
extra
there's a
parts, then
disclaimer.
yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
If it's something that I've put together and then taken apart and then re-put back together, then no.
The biggest thing about this is that
Ziploc baggies and a Sharpie.
the integrity of
Tape it to it.
the integrity of the structure. Yeah, you're putting them there in case something falls apart.
I'm making sure I ain't losing that shit.
Things don't go always as they are planned, and that's what I looked at this topic tonight as measure twice and cut once. Is that you can do all the prep, you can do all the just do things the right way, and sometimes things fall apart a little bit. And with that being said, I think that sometimes you have to sit in that crooked chair. Take it to a further example. I thought there was supposed to be 4 legs to this chair, and there's 3. Now I got a stool. Still going to hold you up, hopefully. Might wobble a little bit.
Just don't lean in the wrong direction.
You always have to really build off of that and realize what the weaknesses are. And I don't care how many times you measure, how many times you think you're doing the right thing. There are going to be times where it never turns out the way you thought it was going to be. And all I know is from my life experiences that this podcast included, there was a time that I was prepped days or weeks in advance. But there are times that we still have to put a show on. And I gotta be honest, this is one of them. I got Nate, I got Dustin here, I got Sean and Shannon in the audience. I got all you guys out in the live audience. And I'm excited to hear what you guys say in the audio that weren't listening live. Got Tony sleeping finally.
He wore himself out.
And Jonathan Herring out there listening, who's with Forged Cigars. I want to keep this going until 12 minutes plus, just so you drink again. I think the biggest thing is that you guys have to really. What I've learned is that there are times you overextend yourself. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to think that you're measuring really well. There's also times that you actually go by the. What'd you say? You fly by the seat of your pants.
Yep.
You're trying to make everyone else happy.
I don't do that.
We had Elena from Bourbon and Blondes in town. We had Bobby Hirschman, who was out here earlier from the Bourbon BS community page. Then we had Brad Grimsley in town, who is a Tinder Box regular that is out of town, but he was here. We had Dustin's bachelor party. Dude, I gotta be honest. I was on like a week-long bender.
Yeah.
Still went to work. Still did my other work that I volunteered for. And I had to recenter, I had to refocus and all that stuff. But sometimes you can measure all you want, but life comes at you and you were not prepared for that. Or you measure your patio there, Dustin, and all of a sudden the ground settles. Now all of a sudden the measurements are off. You're never going to be prepared for everything, but all I can say is that if you try to be open, you like all the relationship talk we talked about tonight, and Sean, Shannon, and everyone else involved, I appreciate you guys being involved because those are invaluable lessons that we all know that the game, the measurements always change. You can measure all you want, but all you got to do is put that work in and put the preparations in, and at the same time wait for them to change or be prepared for them to change, because they will. There are things that are out of your control that you have to be prepared for. Plan B, plan C, plan D, and also make sure that first and foremost you are taken care of. Because if you're not, you can't take care of anyone else. Cheers, guys. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, Altadis USA, BS Cigar Company, and also patreon.com/Bourbon and BS Podcast. You guys are amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
JTS Brown, Edge Sumatra, and also I smoked a Romeo Julieta Reserve, and also I'm on a BS Silver. So, guys, cheers.
Thank you.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday. See you next week.